At the public trial, gathered warriors shout that justice must be served and that the man must hand over the spring and autumn cicadas. Fang Yong, irritated, accuses them of hypocrisy and says they are there only to steal his treasure. Surrounded, he lets out a faint smile as he notices the waning sun behind the mountains and the spring breeze blowing before the autumn moon. With his long platinum hair flowing in the wind, he reflects on his saying that what arises with the break of dawn turns to dust by nightfall. Making a decision, he throws the cicada toward his adversaries and declares he is about to die. Desperate, they try to grab the magical object. However, an explosion occurs. It was all a trap, and more furious than ever, the warriors attempt to stop him. Young, smiling, says he has no regrets about being on the demon's path and that foreseeing what would happen, he used the real cicada. A bright flash emerges, frightening everyone and feeling victorious. The man celebrates the fact that he will also be a demon in his next life. Another explosion follows, creating a hole in the ground, and he vanishes. Sighing, one of the warriors fears that if the legend is true, Fang will be the plague of that world. Rewinding 500 years earlier in the village of Guyu, warrior monks pray to their ancestors to be blessed with many talented youths at the awakening ceremony. In another part of the temple, elders talk about how quickly time has passed and that tomorrow is already the grand opening of the annual ceremony. The trio discusses how the Bai and Shan villages have talented geniuses emerging, while their clan hasn't seen a genius for 3 years. Tense, they mention Bai Ningbing, who in 2 years became a level 3 Gu master and possesses a terrifying talent that impresses them. Bringing hope, one of the men highlights that the Fang family has a genius who spoke at 3 years old and recited poems by the age of 5. Excited, another comments that the boy's works are those of a true genius. An elder then reveals concern as the boy's parents' passing left him in the care of uncles who might not realize what they have in their hands. He continues, revealing that the boy is likely named Fang Yuan and that if he shows great talent, he will become the hope of the clan. Ending the conversation, he tells the others to rest well to perform at their best tomorrow. But he reminds them that no one should use tricks that cause clan disunity and that the competition must be fair and honorable. Though dissatisfied, everyone agrees. The monk, approaching the window to observe the rain, gives a faint smile and says that, like the dry leaves of trees, the younger generation is the future of the clan. Elsewhere in the village, the demon notices and rejoices that the cicada truly worked and that he has returned 500 years into the past. Confident, he declares he can achieve anything he desires and does not care if he has to live it all over again. That even though it will be difficult and dangerous, he has already ended this life once and is back on the path without regrets. Facing a river known as the River of Time, which governs the world's flow of time, Fang intends to navigate upstream to return to the past. He states that even if everything goes wrong, his demonic heart will not carry regrets. Suddenly, he is observing a scene where 2 children mourn the loss of their parents. He wonders if these are fragments of his memory in the River of Time. The children's uncle orders them to stop crying, saying their parents died honorably for the clan, and their aunt declares that the couple is now their family. Another memory surfaces of the same uncle beating his brother for eating without permission. One of the boys pleads with the aunt to ask her husband to stop, but she looks at him with a grim expression. Expressing discontent, Young watches his younger self injured, deciding to become recognized through the realm's knowledge to put an end to the mistreatment. Confused, he does not understand why he spoke in that way. He then sees a young boy reciting a familiar poem to a crowd that praises him. At home, the uncles praise the boy and offer him food, saying that young Master Fang Yuan has returned, while his younger self watches the situation with an indifferent look. Trying to understand the reason for his indifferent facade, he recalls using this mask to hide the fact that he came from another realm. He was originally an ordinary scholar from the human world who ended up in that place by coincidence. Having been in an unstable situation for 300 years and wandering the world for 200, those 500 years slipped by in the blink of an eye. Unable to remember exactly how he ended up in that realm, he says his genius was merely a mature soul and that many of his poems could be recited by anyone. However, only those with great talent are true geniuses. Realizing the rumors were true and that a cicada like that did not reincarnate with him, he is determined to achieve success in this life. Moreover, since he still has his memories, reclaiming his past glories will not be a difficult task. His brother enters the room and asks why he is so close to the window as it is cold and raining. He asks what Fang Zheng wants, and his brother says he only came to properly close the window so he doesn't catch a cold, since the ceremony is tomorrow and he needs to stand out. Angrily, he orders the boy to leave. Frightened, the boy obeys and says he will see him tomorrow. Tense, he fears he will not achieve a good grade in the test. Crying, he thinks the real grade genius is his brother. The next day, a woman, seeing that Yuan has woken up, says she will ask the servant to prepare his bath. Combing her hair, the woman remarks that everyone thinks he will achieve an excellent grade and that many girls are interested in him. She continues, saying the servants feel very fortunate to serve him and that many people envy her, the one observing for his uncles. The boy remembers that in his past life he fell in love with her. However, when she discovered he was nothing more than a third-class talent, she became hostile. Fang Zheng watches sadly from the doorway as the woman tends to his brother, only to be interrupted by Nanny Shen, who tells him to come in. After tidying up the boy, the seductive woman tells Fang Yuan not to hesitate to ask for anything, as she will always be happy to serve him. Distancing himself, he says, is unnecessary and that she may leave. Leaving the room, the woman's mother asks if his family is serving him well and if he is prepared. He answers affirmatively. He leaves while his brother remains despondent. In the street, people recognize the brothers, particularly the one who writes poetry. Since he is not considered a genius, people do not even remember Zhang's name and call him useless. Ahead, the genius brother thinks that with so many people envying and hating him, it is no surprise he was discredited when he performed poorly on the test. Because to undermine their bond as brothers, their uncles treated them differently, giving him Shen Choir while giving his brother a baba who was overweight. Reflecting, he says that last time things went wrong due to a lack of experience and that his brother was too naive and foolish. But this time he will be able to surprise and control everyone with his dishonest and demonic means. In the end, he concludes that perhaps it is not worth it, as there may still be someone trying to stop him. At the ceremony, the elder of Guyu Clan's academy presides over the event. Leading the students, they are shocked when they descend the stairs and discover an underground cavern. The man explains that long ago, the clan migrated from the Central Plains to King Mountain, attracted by a sacred cicada in the cavern. The cicada was the awakening of the clan as it produced a pure quantity of spring stones and continuous resources for training. He warns the children that the same applies to Gu cultivation and that wherever they are, it is always necessary to have abundant resources. The children look in awe and Yuan smiles, realizing he has finally arrived at the Moon Orchid Sea, the place where the journey begins, the sanctuary of awakening. Explaining further, the elder says that moon orchids are the food of many Gu and that the Flower Sea is the clan's largest plantation. The time to begin has arrived. The challenge is for all the chosen ones to cross the Sea of Flowers and try to reach the opposite shore, going as far as they can. Kuyu Chenbo is the first candidate. Nervously, the boy takes his position and begins the crossing. However, at a certain point, he feels an overwhelming pressure and cannot move any further. Straining to his limit, he feels the pressure lessen and continues. As he advances, he thinks about changing his destiny and not being just a servant unable to secure his own survival. Pleading to the heavens, he asks to become at least a first-rank master. But he only manages 3 steps before being disqualified. The next candidate is Guyu Zhaoxi, who only manages 1 step. Kuyu Mobai is next, and with strong strides, he takes his position. Surprising everyone, the young man advances an incredible 36 steps. Elder Mochen, head of his clan, is congratulated, while his grandfather mocks one of the opponents. Returning from the crossing, the boy achieves a grade B, and it is time for the academic clan elder to inspect his primitive inner sea. After the inspection, the elder confirms that the primitive sea has reached 66% openness, allowing the young man to be trained intensively. The other students are confused, not understanding exactly what the talent grades mean. A boy explains that his father said there are 4 grades, A, B, C, and D, and that with 30 to 40 steps and 7 years of cultivation, one can become a future clan elder. And with 40 to 50 steps, one achieves great talent, becoming a rank 4 Gu master in 10 years, eligible to compete for clan leadership. 2 elders from another clan, sigh and dissatisfied, discuss the lack of talents reaching higher grades. They complain that bloodlines are growing weaker and recall that the 4th generation clan leader was the only rank 5 Gu master, who, unfortunately, did not last long. Next, the candidate is Guyu Chicheng, who takes his position. His grandfather watches tensely. Surprisingly, the young man also manages 36 steps, eliciting cries of joy from his grandfather, who mocks the same man who previously looked down on him. Fang Yuan watches the argument unfold, bored. He remembers that Cheng's grandfather used tricks to forge the result due to his rivalry with Guyu Mochen, and that if not for an incident, the deceit would not have been exposed. With this knowledge, the boy reflects on how he can use it to his advantage. The elder calls his name, and it is finally his moment. Everyone watches attentively as he has the greatest chance of achieving high-grade talent. His brother, saddened, looks on the verge of tears. He, on the other hand, smiles as he takes the first step. Beginning the crossing, he explains that the pressure comes from the depths of the spring sea, and that when it becomes unbearable for those who walk, a Gu appears. Each point of light that emerges is known as the Gu of Hope, which comes from an ancient legend. This tale says that when the separation between heaven and earth occurred, the world was full of wild creatures. That was when the first man called Ren Zhu appeared. To survive, he had to eat raw flesh, drink the blood of wild animals, and fend off creatures called despair. About to be attacked, he pleaded for help. Then a bright yellow light appeared in the sky. From the light came a voice that said it had come in response to his call. It explained that as long as the man offered his lifespan, it would help him overcome his difficulties. Confused, he questioned the proposal. But then, he accepted and offered his youth to the leader of the creatures. Quickly, his body lit up and muscles appeared. He felt power emanating from himself. With such strength, he managed to defeat many despairs and secure food, only to realize he also needed to recover and cultivate his mind to avoid losing his life. Additionally, his strength was insufficient against so many creatures. Renzu then decided to offer his middle age to the most beautiful Gu, which accepted and gave him wisdom. However, old age arrived, making things much more difficult. The Gu, seeing that the man had nothing left to offer, decided to abandon him. Old and alone, he found himself surrounded by terrifying beings. Not wanting to die and looking at the sky, he noticed a very small Gu. The white light asked him to feed it so that it could save him. With nothing left to offer, he gave a sad laugh and said that even if he gave up his last few years of life, he would die anyway. Crying, he wished to live even if only for one more second. He told the Gu to leave, but it responded saying it did not need much like the other two. It asked only that the man give his heart. Having no faith left, he agreed and asked what he would gain in return. The creatures were suddenly eliminated and decided to retreat, realizing that Gu was the Gu of hope. Thus, Renzu understood that in moments of despair, one must give their heart to hope. With great effort, Fang Yuan manages to take 20 steps and fears he will not be able to go further. From a distance, the elders observe and notice the absence of the Gu of hope, something that should not happen with high-grade talent. Sweating profusely, the boy realizes how little he has progressed. However, upon taking the 27th step, he notices a great light emerging near his abdomen. In shock, he realizes that his awakening has succeeded and that there is hope for immortality. The opening of his primitive ocean was occurring, but it was not in the same dimension as his limbs or heart. During the process, the Gu of hope burst, emitting a bright light that formed a membrane responsible for sustaining the opening of the space. Within the opening lay the ocean, whose green color represented the primitive essence of rank 1 masters called the Green Copper Ocean. Gu masters use the essence to control the Gu. Fang Yuan then realizes he has become a rank 1 Gu master. Gasping for breath, the boy can no longer walk and recalls that the same thing happened last time. The clan elder asks him if he can still move forward. Everyone is shocked that he only managed to take 27 steps. In disbelief, the students question how the boy could be only grade C. His brother widens his eyes in surprise. Everyone sighs and laments what has just occurred. The elders of his clan analyze the situation to determine if something is wrong, but dismiss the possibility since everyone was attentive and would have noticed if anyone had cheated. One of the men remarks that having so many favorable traits like agility and intelligence does not necessarily mean a high talent grade, which aligns with the result. Another says that the greater the expectations, the greater the disappointment, adding that newer generations are gradually worsening. Mocked by other students, Yuan leaves the sea. He remembers his reaction the last time this happened when he panicked, unable to believe what had occurred. Angry, he vowed that after crossing, he was destined to expand his knowledge and achieve the highest talent grade. Judgmental and disdainful glances came from all directions. Talking to himself, he reflects on how he felt the first time. He was filled with hatred and a profound sense of injustice. Consoling himself, he remembers that all those who mocked him were burned and reduced to dust. His new self does not care about the fate of his clan or his family and prefers to follow the demon's path, something his old self vehemently disagrees with. With a dark gaze, he declares that he is merely a fish among many in the vast river of time, but now he will be the one attempting to swim upstream. Thus, he bids farewell to his past self. The elder, sighing, calls the next candidate, Guyu Fangjing. Frightened, the boy raises his hand to signal his presence. Taking a step forward, he stumbles and falls, causing everyone to laugh. Even the chief remarks that the brothers are a joke. Embarrassed and on the ground, the young man sweats nervously. Yuan then grabs his shirt with clenched fists, leaving him startled. Standing up, he observes his brother facing the crowd with extreme calm and questions how this is possible, given that he is only a grade C talent. He recalls everything he heard from others about how his twin was a genius while he was a useless person who couldn't do anything right. In the depths of his suffering, he remembers how his brother was seen as the hope of the clan. Meanwhile, he was only known as Fang Yuan's little brother. In this memory, his brother asks if anyone had bothered him. Stammering, he says no, as no one would dare do anything in his presence. Satisfied with the response, his brother turns his back. Resigned to his lack of talent, Zheng finds solace in not needing to make an effort, as his brother is already a genius. But then he remembers how choir was given to his twin while he remained alone. He also recalls overhearing conversations about how he had absolutely nothing special. Some even planned to banish him after the awakening ceremony, leaving him in shock. Panicking, he begins to question why they wouldn't let him be a normal person and why he had grown so accustomed to being belittled. With rising fury, he thinks that if his brother did not exist, he would not have gone through any of this. In his daydream, he sees himself with Choir, who asks what he is daydreaming about. He asks her why, of all the people her age, she is the only one so kind to him. She calls him an idiot, not understanding why he would ask such a thing. Embarrassed, he insists on getting an answer, and she finally says that even though his brother is talented, he is emotionless and she greatly prefers his kindness. Astonished, she adds that he and she are merely broken toys. The memory is then shattered when he recalls the day he saw Choir kissing his brother. In disbelief, he questions what kind of game the girl is playing with him and why, by giving him small illusions of hope, she became everything he ever wanted. Directing his hatred toward Yuan, He says it's all his fault, that he is like a giant mountain crushing him. Crying, he thinks that he also wants to be respected and loved, that he doesn't want to be a guy who sits alone in a corner, and that if his parents were there, everything would be different. Determined to change his situation and surprising everyone, the boy advances 43 steps, becoming a great talent. The elders debate among themselves about who will train Fang Zheng. Crying, the boy cannot believe the miracle that just happened and promises his brother that everything will change now, that he will show who the real genius is. He declares that Yuan is no longer the great mountain blocking his path and that he is no longer just his little brother. Now he is Gu Yu Fang Zheng, and everyone who mocks him must remember that. A week passes, and at school, the elder-in-chief teaches that humans are above all creatures, and that Gu is the essence of heaven and earth. He says that in this world there are thousands of Gu species and that they live everywhere, such as in the soil and shrubs and sometimes inside wild animals. In wild beasts and precious stones, and even in evil spirits, Gu is the essence of all forms of existing life. Excited, the students watch the elder explain that anyone who awakens their space opening and uses their primitive essence to control Gu becomes a Gu master. Gu Yu Mobai raises his hand and asks the teacher what specifically ranks 1, 2, and so on mean for Gu masters. In response, the elder explains that Gu masters have 9 ranks from the lowest to the highest, and that there are also 4 stages in each rank: initial, middle, upper, and peak. He adds that all Gu masters start at rank 1, with training and talent identified in the test, they can reach up to rank 3 or higher. Regarding the talent grades, he says they influence the size of the space opening in the ocean. Grade D reaches rank 1 to 2, C reaches rank 2, and B reaches rank 3. For grade A, however, the primitive ocean is large and occupies 80 to 90% of the space opening. Those who achieve it have the potential to reach rank 5. The students ask about rank 6. The elder explains that rank 6 masters are legends, and that he does not know much about them. The clan has never had one. Shocked, the youths realize why all the elders want to train Gu Yu Fang Zheng. His brother, who has been sleeping in his chair for a long time, catches the students' attention. Rumors say that Yuan hasn't returned home since the ceremony and that some people have seen him wandering around with wine. Thinking to himself, the elder-in-chief is still surprised that the boy long considered a prodigy turned out to be only a grade C talent. Still in thought, he reflects on how the boy, even after 7 days, remains dejected and disinterested, and he doesn't know how he believed Yuan could be a genius. He says that with this kind of attitude, the boy will become useless and a waste of resources for the clan. Recalling the past, he reveals aloud that there were 2 rank 5 Gu masters in the clan. One was the first clan leader who founded the village, and the other was the 4th leader. But because of the wine flower monk who was sinister and cunning, he did not reach rank 6. Overhearing the conversation, the defeated brother thinks it's a shame the 4th generation clan leader passed away so soon, and that if he had been there 100 years ago, he would have fought to defend him. Remembering the ancient story, he notes that the wine flower monk was devoted to hedonistic pleasures and had a despicable reputation even among his own. Plotting against the village, he entered King Mountain. The 4th clan leader was already waiting for him. After a fierce battle, where the victorious one was the leader known for his mercy, his opponent knelt and begged for his life, using the moment to counterattack. Despite being badly wounded, the 4th leader eliminated his enemy and passed away soon after, which is why he is considered a hero by the entire clan. Fang Yuan reveals that even after searching in all the villages and outskirts, he found nothing about the wine flower monk. In his thoughts, he notes that about 2 months after the awakening ceremony, a Gu master, while drinking in the forest, ended up spreading the scent of wine everywhere. This attracted a liquor-shaped insect that flew away but was pursued by the master until, at the end of the trail, he found a secret entrance leading underground. Upon entering the cave drawn by the worm, the man ended up discovering the legacy of the wine flower monk. Returning to the village, he shared everything he had uncovered and became the sensation of the moment in the entire clan, benefiting many with increased cultivation. Unfortunately, the boy recounts that he doesn't know the exact location of the cave and failed every time he used wine to lure the worm. His plan was to refine the liquor creature and use it as his vital Gu, which would far surpass the moonlight Gu of his clan. Time passes and April arrives. The clan leader explains that primitive stones are not just currency but also cultivation tools that can be used to replenish the primitive ocean. It is now time for the novice masters to begin refining their vital Gu by selecting their Gu worm, and only after this step can they return to the academy. He emphasizes that this is the first evaluation, and whoever completes the refinement first will receive 20 primitive stones. A student asks what happens if someone uses a Gu of a rank higher than their own. The elder responds that masters can only use Gu corresponding to their rank, otherwise a high price will be paid, as feeding high-rank Gu will not be possible. This is why beginner masters always start their refinement with a rank 1 worm, which once fully refined becomes their vital Gu. Warning everyone, he states that if a vital Gu dies, the master will not emerge unscathed, making its protection a top priority. Fang Yuan feels excited as the moment of choosing has arrived. In a long line, the students wait eagerly. An elder organizes the youths and instructs them to enter one by one. When it is the turn of the grade C talent master, he examines the options, dissatisfied. Unsuccessful in obtaining a wine flower liquor worm, he chooses to continue with the moonlight goo. This variety is the local goo of the Guyu clan. Since they cannot be found in nature, these worms, bred through a secret clan technique, are unique, but he reflects that another option would have been more helpful. Other students complain about the boy's delay. He exits and heads to a shop to buy 2 jars of aged wine. The vendor, noticing his frequent visits, asks if he is sure he can drink so much at such a young age. Unsure of what to do, the boy reveals he doesn't have enough primitive stones to buy more wine tomorrow and wonders if he should really refine the moonlight goo. Competing with others who have already started their refinement, Yuan knows he stands no chance of winning the race with grade C talent. His brother interrupts his thoughts and says their uncles want to see him. He tells him he cannot continue behaving this way and that many people are worried. Disconcerted by his twin's dark expression, the boy realizes he doesn't even have the courage to look him in the eye. Irritated, he tries to convince himself that he has changed and is no longer the same person. His brother then walks past him as if he weren't there and tells him to get lost. At home, their aunt remarks how, in the blink of an eye, both are now 15 years old and have become Hu masters. Fulfilling a promise, she gives 6 vital stones to each of them, and only the grade talent master thanks her. She says it's unnecessary as they are like her children. Their uncle then says the couple wants to adopt the boys as their real sons and asks only Fang Zhang if he is willing. Emotional, the young man says of course he is willing and that he has always dreamed of having a family with them. The couple then tells him he should no longer call them aunt and uncle. Bowing, the boy calls them mother and father, while the man asks Yuan for his stance. The uncle continues, saying they will not force him and that he needs to start becoming independent. As financial support, they give him 200 spiritual stones. Refusing to stay, the boy declares that since they no longer need him, he will leave. His brother tries to stop him, but the uncle asks him to let him go. Calling him a brat, he says Yuan is too difficult to deal with. Later that night, the couple discusses their true intentions, revealing that their only interest in adopting the boys is the inheritance left by their parents, and they're glad at least one fell for the scheme. The woman expresses concern, but the man assures her that the plan is to expel the boy from the clan before he turns 16, thus forfeiting his share of the inheritance. Smart and calculating, the boy remembers that in his past life, this plan worked, but now he is curious to see what his uncles will do. Knowing more this time, he resolves not to lose his claim to the fortune, which is the only thing that can help him advance in cultivation along with the liquor worm. In the forest alone, he feels cold. Meanwhile, at home, his brother is determined to secure first place in the task to please their parents, only to be surprised by Choir, who suggests he take a bath. 3 days pass, and Fang Yuan finds himself frustrated by his slow progress in refining his moonlight goo. He realizes that it is impossible to take first place at his current speed. His servant, the same one who serves his brother, enters the room and offers him food and wine. He allows her to come in, saying he is hungry. The woman says she wants to have some wine with him. She adds that she has always liked him, and no matter what kind of talent he has, she will continue to serve him. The atmosphere grows intense as she pours him wine. When she attempts to kiss him, she is taken aback when he accuses her of pretending and being nothing more than a pretty trap. She appears confused. Grabbing her by the arm, he angrily questions if all this is part of the show orchestrated by his uncle and aunt to trap him. When he releases her, a dark expression takes over his face, and he asks if she really thinks he wouldn't be capable of eliminating her. As tears stream down Choir's face, Yuan tells her he will spare her because of her years of service and orders her to go to his brother, who is more naive and gullible. As he turns away, he overhears the young woman being questioned by his uncles about whether the plan worked and is impressed by the creativity involved, far greater than last time. He leaves the house and heads to an inn, where the attendant judges him for his simple clothing. When he shows that he can pay, the man becomes embarrassed and apologizes. Yuan then orders food and wine. As he eats, he reflects on not having enough spiritual stones to refine his moonlight goo, nor having found the liquor worm. All he can do is hope to find what he needs and secure the 20 stones required for the refinement. 7 days pass, and he is still unable to attract the creature. Distracted, he overhears a conversation at a nearby table. A man asks the waiter to bring the best wine in the shop. The waiter responds that the wine is expensive, costing 2 spiritual stones per jar, and is accused of looking down on the men at the table. Shocked, the men find the price outrageous. A young man laughs at the situation and tells the men to sit down since they can't afford to pay, which irritates them. The young man, a rank 1 goo master, stands up, and when everyone sees him, they immediately apologize, saying they didn't mean to offend him. Grabbing a jar of wine, he takes a deep breath and praising it, says it is green bamboo wine of superior grade, available only at this shop on the entire mountain. One of the men, sweating nervously, says that if the master likes it, he will pay for the wine, but the master sneers. He pours the wine over the man's head, asking how he dares flaunt his wealth in front of him. Throwing the jar at his head, he shouts that mortals are worthless. Everyone pleads for their lives. A woman appears, addressing the rank 1 goo master as Jiangya, and says the men have learned their lesson. Irritated, he declares that he wants to see if anyone dares oppose him and drink that wine again. Suddenly, someone challenges him, shocking everyone by ordering a jar of green bamboo wine. That someone is Yuan. The master, recognizing that Yuan is also a Gu master, says the rule doesn't apply to him. Yuan takes the wine and informs the waiter that he will step out briefly and return later. On a new trip to the forest, he hopes to attract the worm with the drink. With only a few stones left, he decides that this night will be his final gamble. Sighing, he feels he has failed again and that it's time to give up as he won't have enough stones even to refine his moonlight goo. As he walks, he notices something ahead. Surprised, he realizes it is the liquor worm, which seems drunk and decides to follow it in hopes of finding the wine flower monk. He runs, crossing the water, and when he opens his eyes, he realizes he has found the place. The monk was in a cave behind the waterfall, and Yuan understands why he hadn't found it before. Happy, he celebrates finding the inheritance and the liquor worm. But then he freezes, hearing someone's voice. Confused, he wonders if he is being followed. Realizing that his current self cannot defeat anyone, he asks if the stranger wants the worm. The stranger responds that he has poisoned Yuan, and that unless he cures him, he will die. Yuan notices that the person begins pleading for their life, but not to him. Turning around in confusion, he is shocked to see the wine flower monk standing there, shouting about the stranger having cultivated to rank 5 at such a young age. The man, still begging for his life, reminds the monk of his clan's hospitality, but the monk refuses to believe him as he was once deceived and poisoned by the clan's leader. Desperate, the man offers all the spiritual stones of his clan and declares he is willing to become the monk's enslavement goo. The monk agrees to cure the man, demanding 3,000 spiritual stones and lunar orchid stems weekly in the future. Satisfied, the man thanks him for his benevolence. Annoyed, the monk tells him to stop with the reverence and declares his disdain for people like him, but is struck by a sudden attack. Confused, the monk questions whether the man had another goo. The man responds that it is the Mu Shadow Goo, which has the ability to restrict the primitive ocean. The monk then retaliates, landing a direct hit on the man. Others, seeing the leader of the clan's 4th generation injured, decide to join the fight. Struck by the goo, the monk retreats but promises to return and finish them all. Yuan then realizes that his elders have completely altered the story. He notes that if the clan discovers the projection, they will erase it, as it reveals the truth. Calling the monk a coward, Yuan searches for the inheritance and eventually finds something. To his surprise, he discovers only 15 spiritual stones, as most of the goo had died from lack of sustenance, and realizes the worm is the greatest reward of the night. Reflecting, he debates whether to report his discovery to his clan, knowing that the projection goo can only be used once. Understanding that this could affect the clan's morale, he decides to sell the projection to the other 2 villages, maximizing its value. This, he concludes, will be his great reward. With disdain as he leaves the cave, he declares that his clan is merely a stone in his path to immortality, and it's better to see it crumble into ruins. Back at the inn, the receptionist informs him that his bath has been prepared and asks him to follow. Yuan declines. At the door, the attendant, dissatisfied with the treatment, mutters that if Yuan were truly a goo master, he would be kinder. Washing his face, Fang Yuan contemplates refining his liquor worm, which along with his vital goo would allow him to return to the academy and live in its dormitories. Calculating his resources, he realizes he will need to use 16 of the 17 spiritual stones he has left. Even though a rank 1 liquor worm is difficult to refine, it could compensate for his lack of talent. Determined, he resolves to refine the liquor worm no matter the cost. But first, he must focus on his primitive ocean. The worm can enhance the quality of his low-grade primitive essence to medium grade, surpassing others at his stage and improving his refinement. Since the worm is asleep, its resistance is lower, making this the perfect time. However, as soon as he begins the process, the worm starts waking up, and he realizes that due to its strength, it must have been the vital goo of the wine flower monk. Originally, it must have been a rank 5 goo, but with so much time without sustenance, it reverted to rank 1, though it remains strong and powerful. Yuan realizes that if this becomes a battle of strength between him and the worm, he won't have enough stones to complete the refinement. His only option would be to seek help from a higher rank goo master, but someone at rank 3 wouldn't help for free. The next morning, Yuan reflects on his failure, having spent the night refining his worm without reaching even 1%, and concludes that the monk's strength was immense. His thoughts are interrupted by his brother Zheng, who questions why Yuan didn't return home the previous night and demands to know what he did to Shen Choir. Attempting to get an explanation but failing, Zheng shouts, declaring that Yuan cannot treat the young woman like that just because he's depressed over his failure. Standing up, Yuan slaps his grade, a talent twin, across the face and demands to know how he dares speak to him that way to defend a mere servant. With his hand on his face, the young man stands up, surprised as his brother had never hit him before. Shouting, he accuses his brother of being jealous of him just because he is a grade 3 talent. Irritated, Fang Yuan strikes his brother again and questions whether he has forgotten that he wouldn't be alive today if it weren't for him. Flashes of the past flood Zheng's mind, recalling all the times his brother sacrificed for him, even giving up his winter clothes. He tries to justify himself, but Yuan interrupts, saying that Zheng traded away even their real parents, so he means nothing either. With a look of pain, Yuan concludes by saying that he is no longer Fang Zheng's brother, leaving him devastated. In search of more spiritual stones, the grade C talent brother proposes selling Shen Choir to his twin, which enrages him. But under pressure, Zheng agrees to the deal and gives him 5.5 stones. Yuan warns him to leave before he changes his mind about the sale of the servant. Zheng obeys and, though furious, walks away. Clutching the stones, Yuan reflects that this is the value of his fraternal bond with his brother. Meanwhile, as his twin heads toward the exit, he thinks that he will finally have the young woman all to himself. 2 days pass, and still working on refining the liquor worm, Yuan finds himself frustrated, having spent 12 stones without even reaching halfway to completion. He reasons that even if he fails, having the worm as his goo is what matters. Then he notices the creature behaving strangely. The worm begins invading his primitive ocean, and Yuan fears that resisting the impact will weaken the worm in the future. He decides to take one last gamble. Focusing on mobilizing his primitive essence, he feels a familiar aura and realizes it is the Chunkyu cicada, the spring and autumn cicada. At home, Zheng argues with his uncle, who disapproves of his decision to give nearly 6 spiritual stones in exchange for the servant. The elder then reveals that Choir belonged to the family, not Yuan, so there was no need for the purchase. Overlooking Zheng's mistake, the uncle, now considered the father, gives him another 6 stones and sends him to his room to refine his goo. Embarrassed, Zheng complies. Annoyed, the man marvels at Yuan's cunning, but his wife calms him, saying the boy is a grade 3 talent and will need much more than 6 stones. Though worried about the boy's potential success, the man recalls that based on Yuan's aptitude, falling behind now will mean losing out on any clan rewards later. Thus, Yuan will face diminishing success over time, losing hope of claiming his inheritance from their parents. Therefore, obstructing him now is the solution. The wife, confused, questions why her husband is afraid, given that even without interference, Yuan will remain 1 rank below Zheng. Shouting, the man exclaims that if Yuan reaches 16 years old and achieves mid-stage rank 1, he will claim everything that is rightfully his, and no one will stop him. Terrified, the woman asks what they should do. The man responds that the solution is to conspire against the boy, ensuring he fails over the next year. Nervously, the wife replies that this will be a difficult task since the boy is clever and hard to manipulate. They decide to pit the twins against each other. Meanwhile, far away, Yuan admires his cicada. He admits he never imagined it would reincarnate, and even better, realizes the creature has become his vital goo, surpassing all others due to its rank 6 status. Though weakened by the journey, this turns out to be an advantage as its immensely strong presence could obliterate his small primitive space, killing him. He decides to use the cicada to suppress the other goo. Thus, refining it becomes child's play, and smiling, he is pleased with his success. He declares that with this new accomplishment, he will be able to refine any low-rank goo in the future using any spiritual stone. But his first step must be to take first place and secure the reward. A soldier reports to the elder-in-chief that a student from the Fang family is outside the academy, claiming to have completed his goo refinement. Excited, the elder goes to meet the boy and, congratulating him on the achievement, declares that the fake genius of his brother could never compare to him. However, to his surprise, the brother standing before him is not Fang Zheng. Greeting the elder, the young man introduces himself as Fang Yuan. Shocked, the elder questions how it's possible that he managed to take first place. Morning arrives, and his first-class talent brother also finishes refining his goo. Running toward the clan base, Zheng declares he wants everyone who underestimated him, including his twin, to see him in a new light. But upon arriving, he receives the news that his brother has already claimed the prize. Astonished, he insists there must be a mistake, only to be told that the fact was confirmed by the elder himself, who will announce it to everyone shortly. Holding the paper that confirms his nightmare, the boy, with his hands on his face, struggles to understand how this could have happened. Filled with rage at the injustice, he claims to have worked harder than his brother. Everyone, shocked, wonders how a grade C talent managed to take first place. The elder responsible for Guyu Mobai, looking at the results, fears for his family's future and declares as punishment that no one should help the boy. The head of the chief family consoles his grandson, assuring him that it was all just luck and promising to help him complete his refinement. Hearing the ridicule directed at him, Fang Zheng declares that next time he won't lose to his brother. Several days pass, and at the martial arena, the elder-in-chief teaches the novice masters how to use their moonlight goo, chosen by many, to launch an attack. First, they must use their mind to control the goo and move each part of their body. The best way is to position it in the palm of the hand. Then they must pour their primitive essence over it and launch it. The students watch in awe as the instructor demonstrates the attack. Beginning the next test, the instructor announces that over the next 3 days, everyone must use their moonlight blade to attack rank 1 scarecrow goo. Focused on the reward of 10 spiritual stones, the young students start training but encounter difficulties. The first-class talent brother prepares himself, declaring that this time he will win. But he is surprised when an attack successfully strikes a scarecrow. Turning to see who it was, he grows irritated, thinking it might have been his twin. To his relief, it's another boy celebrating the success. However, in his thoughts, Fang Yuan reveals that it was actually his attack, deciding to stay discreet for now to avoid revealing his power. At a shop, Jangya observes frustrated grade C talent youth struggling with their training and tries to sell them some scarecrows, but they decline due to the price. Irritated by their refusal, he suddenly perks up when someone requests 10 moon orchid peels. Pleased with the order, he makes the sale to Yuan. While eating, Yuan thinks about how feeding his vital goo won't be a problem, but feeding the other two will cost him 1 spiritual stone per day. This will eventually become difficult, as he currently has only 22 stones. Thus, in the coming days, he'll need to find a way to improve his situation. A waiter informs him that within the next 10 days, caravans will visit the shop to buy large quantities of green bamboo wine, which will deplete the stock. Reflecting on this, Yuan decides to buy 5 jars of wine immediately, as each should last him 4 days. 3 days later, at the martial arena, the physical instructor teaches the students that the Moonlight Blade should only be used as a last resort since it consumes a lot of primitive essence. He advises them to learn how to fight without it for situations when they run out of essence. From afar, Zheng watches his brother with anger. To demonstrate their training results with the blade, everyone must attack the scarecrows 3 times, and those who score 12 points or more will take first place. The rounds begin, and the elder grows frustrated with the students' poor performance. It's Gu Yu Mobai's turn next. Excited, Mobai faces another second-class talent, Qi Cheng. However, after scoring 6 points, the red-haired boy wins. Mobai is now only concerned with the first-class twin, who is next. Everyone stops to watch him. Confident, Jing prepares to launch his attack and defeat his opponent, who turns out to be his own brother. Surprisingly, Zheng strikes the scarecrow's neck and earns praise from the instructor. Scoring 7 points, the highest so far, he feels relieved. The students comment that this time Zheng might take first place. It's Fang Yuan's turn, and other youths mock him for being a third-class talent. Watching closely, the elder-in-chief wonders whether it was luck or true skill that earned Yuan first place in the first test. However, the boy misses the target and everyone laughs. Disheartened, the instructor says he is still trash and only got lucky. With a dark expression, his brother already celebrates his victory in his mind, knowing that to win, Yuan would need to hit the target's head twice. He tells him to give up, claiming not even the gods could save him. The second attack begins, and Zheng is ecstatic, ready to claim first place. But to his and everyone else's surprise, Yuan lands the blade, slicing off the scarecrow's head. Scoring 8 points in one go and taking the lead, Zheng is left stunned by his loss. Shouting angrily, Zheng accuses his twin of cheating and demands a rematch, shocking everyone. Questioning the result, he insists the 8 points are unfair, leaving the elder confused by his overreaction to such a minor test. Still furious, he yells that Yuan used 2 blades instead of 1, pointing out both a deep and shallow cut. But nothing changes, and the instructor declares Yuan the winner of the exam. Fang Yuan watches his twin's outburst with disdain, recalling how Zheng oppressed him in his past life. Walking away with a smile, Yuan comments to himself that the spring light is truly enchanting. The elder awards him his allowance and prize for first place, encouraging him to keep up the good work. Yuan thanks him. Students murmur, questioning what kind of luck the boy has. In the classroom, the elder moves on to the next lesson, the cultivation of essence, explaining that the more advanced it is, the more condensed the primitive essence becomes. He explains that rank 1 Gu has green copper essence, rank 2 has red iron, and rank 3 has white silver, with each rank multiplying the primitive essence by 10. Warning them, he states that cultivation is the foundation of everything and announces that the next exam will occur in 3 months, with prizes, leader elections, and extra allowances. Realizing he cannot let his emotions control him, the first-class talent brother resolves to defeat Yuan fairly and earn his respect. Mobai and Qi Cheng look for the brother who won the last test, but he seems to have already left the classroom. A grade B talent boy remarks that Yuan won't succeed again as he cannot rely on luck and decides to search for him outside. Leaning against the gate, Yuan reflects on how naive everyone is, getting so upset over something trivial. He is spotted by 2 other students who grow irritated upon seeing him. The 2 boys approach, mocking Zheng, but one is surprised when Yuan punches him in the face. Blocking their exit, the third-class talent twin declares that they will only pass the gate if they give him a spiritual stone. His behavior causes an uproar, prompting one of the 3 clan chiefs to confront him, only to be swiftly taken down with a kick. The chief falls to the ground in pain, and another boy declares that everyone should band together to stop Yuan. A fierce fight breaks out. News of the commotion reaches the academy, and other students rush to see what is happening. Alone, Fang Yuan defeats everyone, leaving the onlookers tense and shocked by his strength. Hu Yu Mobai arrives and demands to know what's going on. Fearlessly, the looter orders everyone to hand over a piece of spiritual stone or face the same fate as those already on the ground. Determined, the second-class talent boy launches an attack, declaring he won't lose to someone like Yuan. But he is struck down with a direct hit. 2 girls watch in fear, while Yuan, still standing, asks if anyone else will comply with his demand. A guard runs to inform the elder about the situation outside. The elder, impressed, remarks that the boy defeated his entire class on his own. The soldier asks if the elder will intervene, but he replies that the show has just begun. Declaring he will fight to the end, another boy joins the fray but is also struck down. Other girls warn Yuan not to approach them or they will use their moonlight blades. Yuan calmly reminds them that the academy prohibits using gu in fights, with expulsion as the punishment for breaking the rule. Frightened, they exchange nervous glances before being quickly attacked. Another girl drops to her knees, begging him to let her go. Still insistent on his plan, he demands a piece of spiritual stone. Tearfully, the girl complies and gives him more than he asked for. Refusing the excess, Yuan says he only wants one piece and tells her to leave. Up above, the soldier remarks that the boy is being overly arrogant and asks for permission to intervene, but the elder denies the request, saying that this situation will help the students grow. He continues, stating that the young man is a natural-born fighter, though it's a pity he has low talent. The guard insists on intervening, arguing that the boy isn't even paying attention to them. Rebuking him, the elder asks who he thinks he is, reminding everyone present that the guards don't even bear the Gyu surname. He declares that they are merely servants and that the children carrying the clan's surname are their masters. The elder points out that the guards are lucky to hold their positions and mentions that a new chief will be elected in 15 days, exciting the men who hope to secure the higher role. He orders them to leave, and they quickly comply. In his thoughts, the elder reflects that servants are like dogs. They need to be scolded occasionally, and that is the secret to climbing the hierarchy. Fang Zheng arrives at the scene of the fight. Angrily, he shouts, asking how his brother could do such a thing to his own classmates. Unbothered, Yuan repeats his demand that everyone hand over a spiritual stone or face the consequences. Zheng, incredulous, asks if he has to pay as well. Mocking him, Yuan replies that Zheng doesn't have to pay, which momentarily relieves him. But then Yuan adds that, if necessary, Zheng will also face the consequences, catching him off guard. Preparing to attack, Yuan's demeanor makes his brother break into a cold sweat. In a disdainful tone, Yuan tells him not to make him repeat himself. Behind them, the other students, now back on their feet, are surprised by Yuan's attitude. Taking charge, Zheng tells the group they won't be able to defeat Yuan and suggests they talk it out elsewhere, prompting everyone to hand over a stone. The young looter orders them to stop, making everyone freeze. He then questions whether they thought he would stoop to picking spiritual stones off the bodies of those lying on the ground. The students grow irritated by the command. At the shop, an employee presents Yuan with a bill for 20 jars of green bamboo wine purchased with the stolen stones and asks him to review it, but Yuan refuses. Calculating his funds, Yuan notes that he now has 79 spiritual stones but has already used half of them. Realizing that he will need far more stones in the future, he decides to loot regularly. At home, Zheng tells his father about the incident, leaving the man in disbelief, and he receives another spiritual stone. His mother expresses concern that the looter might get expelled, but her husband disagrees. He explains that because of the dangers, the boy is necessary, and this situation will likely encourage more fights, which the students can handle. The woman, furious, points out that with so many stones, Yuan will cultivate much faster. The man replies that the only thing they can do is encourage Zheng to retaliate. Qi Cheng's grandfather also refuses to help him, saying that doing so would make their clan appear weak and lose respect. He predicts other clans will act similarly. Concluding the discussion, the grandfather reveals that he forged his grandson's second-class talent to ensure their family has a strong successor, and Qi Cheng understands. On his veranda, the great talent twin reflects that his brother has made a grave mistake and will likely be expelled, wondering if he should plead for mercy on Yuan's behalf. Torn by conflicting emotions, Zheng battles between anger over being robbed and lingering fraternal feelings. Punching a wall, he wonders what he should do. 3 days later in the martial arena, students discuss how their parents have refused to help them. The instructor, observing the students' training, feels pleased and remarks that they finally understood the importance of using their fists and feet. Unlike the others, Yuan lies on the grass and the elder appears, commenting that it's thanks to Yuan that everyone is now eager to learn how to fight. 4 days later, family day arrives. At the academy gate, the grade C talent youth once again blocks the students from leaving, demanding a spiritual stone from each person. Mobi steps forward and challenges Yuan to a fight. But once again, everything goes wrong and Mobi is struck down. Qi Cheng then advances to join the battle. Before he can finish speaking, however, he receives a kick. Zheng also rushes to attack but gets punched in the nose. Seeing the situation, the remaining students decide to gang up and attack Yuan all at once. They ask if the boy can tank the tram. With a bag full of stones and leaving his opponents on the ground, Yuan walks away satisfied. Kuyu Mobai, filled with rage, vows revenge. Counting the day's earnings while eating, Yuan notes he has over 90 spiritual stones, only to be interrupted by someone yelling his name. A large, strong man declares that Yuan is in big trouble. Unbothered, Yuan continues eating. Furious, the man tosses the dishes into the air. He reveals that he's there on behalf of Moyan, who is seeking revenge for what Yuan did to Mobai. Ruining a few hours earlier, 2 women express surprise, saying the First Lady has returned. Gu Yu Moyan, an intermediate stage Gu master, asks about her family and is informed that her brother was injured at school, leaving her shocked. Releasing her anger by punching a wooden post, Mobai laments how quickly he lost the fight but is interrupted by his sister. Overjoyed at her arrival, he smiles and she asks what happened to his face. Embarrassed, he says he tripped, but Moyen notices a photo of Fang Yuan pinned to the post he was striking. Pretending not to see it, she advises him to be more careful and says she'll catch up with him later. Moyen then meets with her grandfather, who asks how her investigation went. Surprised he noticed her before she could speak, she asks how he knew. He explains that she's the only one who would enter without knocking. Getting to the point, Moyen asks what happened to her brother, but the grandfather insists she answer his question first. She explains that the wolf den is nearly full, and based on the current reproduction rate, there will be a wolf tide next year. The elder replies that he expected this since wolf tides occur every 3 years, but asks how many Thunder Crown wolves will be present. About 3, Moyen answers. Relieved, the grandfather says the situation isn't too dire and that the Guyu, Bai, and Shang families can handle it. Moyen, eager, repeats her original question. The elder says someone hit her brother twice and laughs, calling it a good beating, which angers her. He tells her not to intervene this time, arguing that failure and humiliation can help someone grow. Before she can protest, he adds that if she truly cares for her brother, she should let him develop independently, as interfering could harm the family's reputation. Concluding, he declares that a man doesn't always need love or family, but a rival is indispensable, and he asks her to leave. Defying her grandfather, Moyen decides to take action. She orders a servant to find the boy in the photo pinned to the post her brother was striking. Back at the restaurant, the large man tells Yuan not to run and to wait where he is for the First Lady, leaving the staff stunned. A waiter remarks that people overestimate rank 1 Gu masters, adding that in terms of physical strength, Yuan is nothing compared to the man. He also notes that the man is merely a servant of the Mo family, acting fierce only because he expects reinforcements. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare act this way. The First Lady arrives at the scene. Identifying Yuan, she tells him he's enjoyed his last meal. Smiling, Yuan asks who told her he was Fang Yuan. The servant, panicking because he gave the information, tries to justify himself. Moyen questions whether Yuan is lying but concludes he isn't, reasoning that his lack of fear suggests he must be Zheng. The servant shouts that Yuan is lying and points out the bag full of spiritual stones, which he claims are stolen. Moyen orders Yuan to open the bag. Calmly holding the bag, Yuan stands up and says he'll take it to his brother, who must be in his dormitory. Conflicted, Moyen wonders which brother the boy is and recalls that Fang Zheng is the clan's hope, deciding she must be certain not to offend him. Accepting his suggestion, she asks him to lead the way. At the academy gates, guards stop them, explaining that only Gu masters are allowed and were out. Irritated, Moyen demands to know if the guards don't recognize her. Embarrassed, they explain that rules are rules. As a compromise, they allow her to enter with one servant. In a dark room, Moyen looks around, confused, asking what this means since no one else is there. Mockingly, Yuan replies, "Am I not a person?" She shouts that she is looking for Gu Fang Yuan. Smiling, the boy states that he never said he wasn't Fang Yuan. Furious, the young woman moves to attack. He warns her to carefully consider her actions. Since clan rules protect academy students while they reside in the dormitory, no one is allowed to enter and fight a student there. With no way out, she realizes she cannot break this rule as it would affect her family. Mocking her, the boy asserts that he didn't lie. He told her he would help her find Yuan, and he did. He asks if she has anything else to say. Laughing, she reminds him that he can't stay in the dormitory forever and says she will wait to see who wins the race. He tells her to go ahead and see how far she can block him, stating that he will still sleep in his bed. He adds that if he doesn't show up in class tomorrow, the elder will come looking for him personally. Angry, she asks if he thinks she doesn't have the courage to do something right there. Unfazed, he challenges her to act. Sweating nervously, the First Lady wonders why, even standing inches away, it feels like a chasm separates them. The boy explains that what restricts humans isn't just problems, but also their emotions, and that even with rank 2 cultivation, she can't do anything against him. Fuming, she demands how he dares to sit on the bed and cultivate in her presence. Yelling, she accuses him of being bold enough to steal spiritual stones, but too cowardly to face the consequences and leave instead of hiding. She claims that if he were a man, he would face the consequences of his actions. Yuan remains silent. Stomping her foot, Moyen declares that while he may have avoided her today, he won't always be able to. She instructs her servant, Gawan, to keep an eye on the boy. The man asks what she plans to do, and she replies that she will go home to sleep. Cultivating, Yuan notes that his liquor worm is converting his primitive essence to the mid-stage level, masking his lack of talent and putting him ahead of the others. Successfully completing the conversion of his space from the initial stage to the mid-stage, he feels ready to address some matters. Guarding the door, Gawan notices when Yuan opens his eyes and demands that he leave the room. Yuan realizes the First Lady has gone home. The servant, now furious, asks if Yuan thinks he won't enter. Understanding that if Gawan could enter, he would have done so already, Yuan closes his eyes again to replenish his primitive essence. Shouting angrily, Gawan asks why Yuan continues cultivating when he's just a third-class talent, destined at best to become a rank 2 Hu master. In his thoughts, Yuan admits that being grade C talent limits him and that despite having many stones now, it won't last long. Making a decision, he gets up and heads for the exit. The servant remarks that he has suffered enough waiting for Yuan. Without a word, Yuan launches a bold attack, surprising the man. Realizing that Gaoan, though mortal, must be at the peak of martial arts, Yuan understands he can't win with his current physical state. The servant thinks that Yuan's punches almost hit vital points, realizing why Mobe couldn't last a minute in a fight with him. Sweating nervously, Gaoan concludes that Yuan intends to finish him off but resolves not to let that happen. He remembers that while Yuan has great strength, his body is still that of a child. Thus, he plans to capture the boy and bring him to the First Lady. But he is surprised by another strike. The fight continues with blows exchanged on both sides. Determined not to lose, Gaoan reminds Yuan that using Gu inside the academy without permission is against clan rules. Ignoring this, Yuan decides to use his Moonlight Gu, but ensures he doesn't expose his mid-stage Ki to avoid revealing his liquor worm. Shocked, Gaoan wonders how Yuan dares disobey the rules. Smiling, Yuan asks what happens if he breaks the rules. Immediately, he uses his Moon Blade, injuring the servant, who says he only needs to protect his vital points. The fight rages on, with neither willing to give up. Yuan concludes that he is still too weak and realizes there is only one option left: to use his mid-stage primitive Ki. The man defends himself and orders the boy to give up immediately. The tension remains palpable. A young man appears with his arm bleeding and completely cut, questioning what is happening. He is deeply shocked as the Moonlight Blade shouldn't be capable of cutting flesh, concluding that the boy present is extremely dangerous. The man tries to flee, but the boy asks who gave him permission to leave, stating that no such permission was granted. Nearby, two guards hear someone calling for help. One guard tells the other to ignore it, reasoning that it's just Miss Moyen's servant and that they've already broken some rules. Continuing, the guard mentions that they should be more concerned about Gaoan harming Fang Yuan. The superior dismisses the cries for help, saying the man can scream all he wants, but no one will save him, while the servant continues desperately pleading for help. Another strike is launched toward Gaoan as he begs to be let go. The fatal blow kills him, and he collapses to the ground. The guards, observing the scene, realize that the protagonist has killed his opponent and become alarmed. Fang Yuan demands the sword from one of the guards. Holding the weapon, he reflects that because of this, the existence of the liquor worm will be exposed, as his opponent's wounds will reveal his primitive Ki. However, without witnesses, nothing can be proven. But since the guards saw what happened, they cannot be allowed to live. The protagonist decides to kill the witnesses. Before he can execute his plan, more guards arrive, asking what happened and are informed of the murder. The boy realizes he cannot kill them all given their numbers and his limited remaining Ki. Thinking of a plan B, he decides to let the incident with Gaoan escalate further. Approaching the body, a guard tells him to leave it to them, saying they will handle the murder. But the young man insists there's no need. He orders everyone to leave while the guards, shocked, question whether he is really just a 15-year-old boy. Everyone is stunned by the scene and calls the boy a true demon as he drives the body of his opponent by the feet. Elsewhere, rumors spread that Fang Yuan has killed someone. Two people discuss the incident, affirming that the victim was a servant of the Mo family. Overhearing the conversation, a nearby young man reflects on how he once fought the protagonist and cannot understand how someone so dangerous was ever close to him. Later, the 15-year-old boy enters a room and asks if the elder had summoned him. The elder states that Yuan already knows why he was called. Knowing what he did wrong, Fang Yuan admits to breaking the rules by using Gu inside the academy, acknowledging that he will have to pay 30 spiritual stones. Irritated, the elder demands to know how Gaoan died, but the boy dismisses the question, asking them not to play games with him. He explains that he had to use the Moonlight Gu to kill a traitor who had insulted the masters and possessed a toxic heart. Concluding, Yuan asserts that the elder will make the proper judgment. The older man studies the teenager, noting that Yuan is clever enough to say whatever he wants about the deceased who cannot defend himself. Observing Yuan's demeanor, he realizes the boy is unnervingly calm for someone who was just killed. After reflecting on the boy's behavior, the elder asks what was done with the man's body. After a pause, Yuan replies that he took care of the body. Someone alerts the elder and the first lady that this situation is bad. Elsewhere, the girl delivers a box, explaining that it was left by the 15-year-old boy. The man asks what's inside, but the girl says only he should see it. Returning to the conversation between Fang Yuan and the elder, the boy explains that the body must be returned to the Mo family since Gaoan was their servant. Opening the box, the man finds a severed piece of the body. Calmly, Yuan states that he dismembered the body, packed it into wooden boxes, and left it at the Mo family's doorstep. Horrified, the elder becomes enraged. He declares that what's done is done, but warns Yuan to prepare for punishment. Unrepentant, Yuan accepts this calmly. Someone wonders aloud if Fang Yuan has eaten a bear's stomach to be so fearless. Angrily, the man who received the box vows to teach the boy a lesson, declaring that one should consider the owner before striking the dog. He dashes off. Her grandfather interrupts and says the boy doesn't understand the significance of Fang Yuan's actions and that her behavior is disappointing him. Upset, she asks what he means. The older man explains Fang Yuan's tactic of leaving the corpse right at the back door where the girl sleeps. Puzzled, the young man wonders if the boy is seeking reconciliation with them. Agreeing with his grandson, the grandfather says that Fang Yuan is both trying to reconcile and provoke them at the same time. He explains that when the time comes, everyone will have to deal with the collateral damage together, but if the family clings to the incident, the rest of the body will likely be delivered by the boy. Both conclude that it was a simple but clever move, and now the Mo family cannot take another step forward. Thoughtful, the young man remarks that Fang Yuan is only 15 years old and that his grandfather might be underestimating him. Still irritated, the elder says the boy can't clearly see the situation right now. To clarify things, the grandfather begins recalling actions that prove his observations about the protagonist. Concluding, he asserts that while Fang Yuan is very intelligent, he is still only a third-class talent. Reflecting, he describes the boy as a small fish and says there are more important matters to focus on while asking his granddaughter how she plans to handle the situation. Emphatically, she suggests they kill Gaowen's entire family, so the entire clan knows they still stand by the rules. The grandfather listens and is pleased that the young man understands the situation, even if his approach is inappropriate. He explains that Gaowen's death resulted from their failure to properly train the servant, and that killing his family would play into Fang Yuan's hands. Punishing his grandson, the elder confines him for 7 days and outlines what will be done about the late servant's family. Giving orders, he instructs the young man to rest and not leave for the next 7 days. Days pass. The protagonist watches the rain, lost in thought. Fang Yuan remarks that he is certain the Guyu family has already understood why they received the wooden box and that they are likely no longer investigating the servant's death. He continues contemplating the consequences of his actions and reflects on how the family fears others discovering that they broke the rules. Concluding, he states that they are merely chess pieces that follow the rules without truly understanding them. Speaking of rules, the boy overhears a girl asking her grandfather to tell the story of Renzu again. The boy watches the conversation between the young girl and her grandfather. The grandfather begins recounting the story of Renzu in great detail, delighting his granddaughter. In the story, someone says that if a human dies, their heart will go with them, leaving no place for the speaker to live. A scene depicts an old man talking about his life and death with a figure resembling the moon in the sky. The man asks how he can capture the longevity goo, given that it is immobile, hard to detect, and when it moves, it travels at the speed of light. The light explains that in the northwest, there is a mountain with a donation inside. Quickly, the old man begins climbing the mountain, knowing there is a cave inside containing a pair of goo, one round and one square. Reaching the summit, the man realizes he is in the right place. He is Renzu, and it is explained that he went through many hardships to get there. However, it was so dark that the old man could no longer find his way out. He wandered in the darkness, frequently hurting himself on unseen obstacles until he collapsed from exhaustion. Two voices spoke to him. It was the longevity goo, which told him humans could not capture them. They warned that if he remained, they would take his life. Refusing to accept this, the old man declared that his life was nearing its end anyway, and he would not give up. Understanding his resolve, the voices offered him a chance, provided he could correctly name them. Renzu began listing all the names he could think of, but the darkness did not respond because the names were incorrect. Growing weaker, the man reached his limit. In a final gesture of aid, the darkness offered to let him go but demanded that hope be left behind. Angry, the old man refused, declaring that he would not abandon hope even if it meant his death. Feeling his energy renewed, he continued naming possibilities. Old and confused, he repeated many words until, with only 1 day of life remaining, he uttered the correct name. The name was Regulation. With that, the darkness agreed to serve the human as long as he always remained with its brother. The two beings urged the old man to give up trying to discover the other's name. After listing many more names, the old man finally says the word rules. The brilliant light fills the space. The two entities, having had their names discovered, express their admiration for the old man's perseverance and agree to obey him. Without hesitation, the man's first wish is to obtain the longevity goo. With the help of rule and regulation, he gains an additional 80 years of life, effectively returning him to his 20s. The grandfather ends the story saying it's late and returns home with his granddaughter. Fang Yuan listens and reflects on the concepts of rules and regulation, while the elder promises to continue the story another time. There are many opinions about whether Renzu is a legend or a reality, but everything in the world, it's explained, exists based on rules. The protagonist continues pondering the story and the darkness mentioned within it. He thinks that, had he known this 500 years ago, it's something he certainly wouldn't have done. Still reflecting, he declares that after traveling back in time, knowledge has become his greatest treasure and secret. It's explained that the demon who reincarnated is now walking the path of light. Two young men are seen walking. It's revealed that this is a merchant caravan with several giant animals carrying goods. Normally, the caravan arrives in April, but this year, it has come in May. One of the older men urges the caravan to hurry, as they plan to sell the bamboo wine stock as quickly as possible. Jiefu, the caravan leader, is introduced. He apologizes for the delay and explains that the journey to get there was very dangerous. Elder Bo of the Guyu clan also appears, greeting Jia. Again, the caravan leader apologizes, explaining that unforeseen events caused the delay. The villagers invite him to join them and sample a superior-grade blue tea that will leave him feeling invigorated. It's explained that the caravan team will remain in the mountain for 3 days and conduct many transactions during this time. Grass and other items are displayed and traded. The protagonist realizes he needs intimate grass as mixing it with food will reduce the feeding cost of a gu. Fang Yuan explains that half a month ago he killed Gawan and was fined, losing several stones, though the Mo family compensated him with others. He notes that he currently has 118 primitive stones but has been spending a lot over the past few days. Calculating his future expenses, the protagonist finds that he has only 98 stones remaining. Although he needs intimate grass, he decides to return later as he has more pressing matters. Time passes. Various people are seen working in the village. It's explained what Gu are. Strange creatures of various shapes that without food can live only for a short time. Additionally, they can hibernate and over time turn into a hard piece of rock. Fang Yuan states that this situation is rare as most Gu reach this state only when they can no longer sustain themselves. Observing the villagers at work, he remarks that this is a fortunate place because finding a living Gu can bring great fortune. In a flashback, he recalls his past life when a man found a mud-skinned toad Gu. Reflecting, he declares that he is about to steal that destiny. His thoughts are interrupted by a young man asking which stones he would like to bet on. A woman explains how the betting system works and the cost of each stone on the left and right sides. The protagonist says he'll take a look first. An order is given for the subordinates to greet the second young master. Hearing the command, the women whisper among themselves, assuming the boy must be the caravan leader's half-brother and deciding not to interfere. Fang Yuan watches as a man approaches, introducing himself as the manager of the betting house and questions whether the boy isn't too young to be there. Focused, the boy tries to recall events from 500 years ago to identify which stone the young man purchased to acquire the Gu. He remembers that the man bought and opened a stone on site, later selling the mud-skinned toad and earning many valuable stones. Examining the stones, Fang Yuan identifies 20 rocks that meet the criteria, but he can afford to buy only 9 with his current funds. The betting house manager, in good mood, offers 40 spiritual stones to buy the mud ball in the boy's hand. Mocking him, the protagonist replies that buying the strength of the mud ball fossil would mean breaking the betting house's rules. Fang Yuan continues studying the stones, trying to discern which one contains the treasure he seeks. He explains that in his past life, he also participated in caravans and worked in a gambling hall. Others overhear the betting house owner's comments and accuse him of bullying the boy. They confront him. Frightened, the man insists it's a misunderstanding, claiming he merely wanted to buy the mud ball because he found it intriguing. Fang Yuan keeps his eyes on the stones, stating that he knows very well that out of 10 stones, 9 are likely empty. He picks up a stone and believes it will likely be very difficult to find what he seeks using traditional methods. In total, he separates 6 stones from the rest, asserting that the mud-skinned toad must be in one of them. Quickly, the mud-skinned toad emerges in the boy's hand, leaving everyone extremely surprised. A nearby boy comments that Fang Yuan is very lucky to have found something through betting, but another warns that it's still unclear if it's a living Gu. The protagonist continues observing his toad. Everyone stares at the toad in Fang Yuan's hand, most with envy. When the toad croaks, they are shocked to learn it's a living Gu. Everyone is stunned by the sight of the living toad, questioning how he managed to choose so well while others lack such luck. One man becomes outraged upon realizing it's a rare mud-skinned toad Gu. The betting house owner regrets not offering more coins to stop the boy from taking the stones. Underestimating the protagonist as just a kid, he assumes the boy doesn't understand what he has and might sell it for a low price. Proving the man wrong, Fang Yuan begins explaining the toad's qualities, surprising Jiujin. Fang Yuan offers the toad to the betting house owner, but the man tries to haggle for a lower price. Ignoring him, the protagonist leaves amidst the man's shouts. The others discuss how spotters had been stationed in the betting houses, yet they still failed to notice the toad hidden in the stone. Fang Yuan thanks the exchange and leaves, being reminded that he still has one last stone. He exits the room, leaving the girl visibly irritated. Before leaving completely, he inspects his final stone. The others notice something unusual about it and wonder what it could be. Trying to warn him again, the girl advises the boy to be very careful not to kill a hibernating Gu. Reflectively, Fang Yuan notes that he successfully dissected 5 stones in a row and no longer needs to worry about such expenses. Moreover, he now possesses a rank 2 Gu. But he knows he must proceed cautiously as he has already made significant gains. He turns to a final purple and gold stone. Upon breaking it, he finds it truly empty. Still, he celebrates, stating that getting his hands on the pile of stone dust was his primary goal. The young man reflects on the secrets hidden in the mountain, realizing that overcoming the challenges will require 2 people. He recalls the sound and vision of the wine flower monk's Gu and decides it's time to put them to use. The young man concludes that the things he will uncover will go against the clan's beliefs and will draw the attention of the other villagers. A man selling grasses approaches and informs him that he has already sold everything. Frustrated, Fang Yuan realizes he truly delayed too long until he notices an elderly man offering wines from all the villages, sparking his interest. Entering the stall, the vendor asks what type of wine he would like. Observing the options, Fang Yuan examines some tables and benches, realizing they are goo grass and not mere mushrooms. Eager to make a sale, the vendor offers monkey wine, claiming it's a specialty. He pours a small sample. Taking the cup, Fang Yuan extracts a worm from his hand. He drops it into the wine glass, identifying it as the liquor worm. The vendor asks if the master would like to sell it, saying he has been waiting for such a worm for a long time. Without much conversation, the boy leaves a tip and walks out, despite the vendor's insistence on negotiating. The shops remain open for 3 days and 3 nights, and the caravan is scheduled to depart afterward. As Fang Yuan reflects on this, he overhears 2 young men discussing his feat. Listening carefully, he realizes there are no rumors about the liquor worm and decides to keep quiet. A rumor spreads that a merchant is trying to sell a fake goo, enraging everyone. One man accuses the merchant of selling him a fake black boar goo, while the other tries to defend himself. Tensions escalate quickly, leading to a physical fight amid the heated argument. The fight intensifies. The merchant defends himself, claiming he sold a genuine product, not a fake one. Onlookers comment and observe the chaos. Suddenly, Jiafu arrives and questions what is happening. Everyone makes way for him to address the issue. Out of respect, they greet him warmly, and he inquires about the problem. The situation is explained, and Jiafu turns to his brother to ask if the accusations are true. After hearing both sides, he concludes that his brother is at fault. The wrong man feels embarrassed as Jiafu apologizes, explaining that he's only a humble rank 2 goo master. Jiafu dismisses this, saying it's unrelated. Before leaving, the elder advises that the black boar goo is very expensive and warns the young man not to fall for scams again. With wisdom, Jiafu declares that his brother is young and foolish, not adhering to the Jia family's principles. He requests everyone respect the young man but not take him seriously. Fang Yuan observes the situation. The protagonist remarks that he has just discovered an interesting pawn and plans to use him as a projection of the wine flower monk. Someone approaches and asks where the wine they ordered is. It's Jiafu's brother, who sarcastically asks if they doubted his ability to pay for the product. Receiving the wine, he drinks and orders another. Already tipsy, the man accuses his brother of scheming to inherit more of their father's assets. He recalls that, sensing his death, their father had declared that the family's assets would be divided among the sons who led the merchant caravan. The young man wanted to use his own methods to secure the family's assets, but now feels trapped. Someone calls his name. The person offers help to make an agreement with his brother. It's Fang Yuan, but the man dismisses him as a brat and accuses him of coming only to mock him. Fang Yuan assures him that isn't the case, stating he has a significant proposal. Mentioning the family's assets, the man is confused, wondering how the boy knows so much. The protagonist replies that the Jia family's matters aren't as secretive as he thinks, but suggests they talk elsewhere. Listening to Fang Yuan's proposal, the man suspects his brother sent the boy to set him up. Fang Yuan insists he will approach Jiafu and negotiate directly. As he heads for the door, the man rushes after him, asking for more discussion. Fang Yuan acknowledges the man's distrust but tells him he can either believe him or remain forever condemned by his elder brother. Irritated, the man reluctantly agrees to trust him, and Fang Yuan demands 2,000 spiritual stones. Attempting to haggle, the man argues that the price is too high, considering the risks involved. Convinced by Fang Yuan, the man admits that the Bag clan has been growing rapidly in recent years and suggests that selling to them later could earn at least double. Satisfied that his plan is unfolding as intended, Fang Yuan remarks that he has sharp eyes and will make use of Jia Jin Sheng for a long time. Regardless of whether it's a trap or not, the man says he's in on the plan. The protagonist asks him to follow and explains why he chose to negotiate with him instead of his brother. Quickly, Fang Yuan states that he never believed in the older brother's integrity and that the younger brother is simply easier to manipulate. They arrive at the location where a plea is made to the wine flower monk to spare their lives. Realizing Fang Yuan was truthful, the man says he has reasons to trust the boy. The two discuss clans. The protagonist explains that the 4th clan leader died long ago, leaving only the liquor worm, while the other man promises never to betray him. The conversation shifts to the wine flower monk and the possibility of his physical appearance. Jia Jin Sheng mentions hearing about the monk in a legend and expresses interest in finding the monk's spider. Impatient, he asks if the spider is in the location, since the monk died there. Fang Yuan confirms but notes it may have been killed earlier. Suddenly, darkness falls. Images begin appearing on the walls. Through these images, the wine flower monk appears, announcing that the 2 men must become his successors. The duo watches the scene as the monk's inheritance is discussed. Jia Jin ponders the possibility of a goo master's inheritance being hidden in the small mountain. The monk declares that breaking the cycle for nearly 100 days was no easy feat, and that one of them must be his successor, but under one condition. The successor must massacre the Guyu clan and eliminate the entire village without leaving anything behind. Jiu Jin quickly realizes the monk's demonic nature and wonders if inheriting his powers would be improper. Considering good and evil, the man decides to accept the powers, viewing it as a heaven-sent opportunity. Focused on the inheritance, Jiu Jin forgets Fang Yuan is present and debates whether to share the prize with him. He ultimately resolves to kill Fang Yuan and keep the entire inheritance for himself. Decided, he pretends to offer to share the inheritance to lower Fang Yuan's guard, planning to strike a surprise blow. Calling out to Fang Yuan, he prepares to deceive him. Something catches his attention and interrupts him. Suddenly, a deep cut appears across his face, shocking him. Jiu Jin sees the protagonist standing before him, but before he can react, he collapses. Fang Yuan remarks that when one decides to kill, they must act without overthinking. He celebrates the unexpected turn of events. A storm strikes, battering boats carrying goods as people discuss the high stakes of falling behind. One worker warns that any dropped cargo will come at a great cost. The merchants bid farewell, promising to return next year. From afar, an old man watches, knowing the journey is perilous, with no guarantees of tomorrow and some faces may never return. Later, under the rain, Fang Yuan declares that the weather is on his side. He explains that the rain cleanses the sky and earth, refreshes the air, and reduces the chances of detection through tracking methods. This makes it harder to find Jiu Jin's body, even unnoticed by the merchant caravan. It's revealed that the family head had planned to place Jiu Jin and Jia Fu in the same caravan because they differ so greatly in cunning and cultivation. Fang Yuan notes that the younger brother never understood his father's reasoning and reflects that it was unfortunate to kill him, as he was a useful pawn. The protagonist elaborates on how he would have controlled the man if he had kept him alive. Nevertheless, he celebrates having eliminated the evidence but resolves to stay in the village to anticipate future investigations. He concludes that while the future cannot be predicted, its uncertainty is exciting. As he walks, Fang Yuan reflects that he didn't want to kill the other man. 4 days pass. A trading field is introduced where two people duel at the center as others cheer for Fang Zheng. Suddenly, one competitor is knocked out of the ring with a single blow. It's Fang Zheng who loses the fight, giving Fang Yuan his 33rd consecutive victory. Defeated, the younger brother leaves the battleground visibly upset and supported by others, insisting he could still fight but coughing up blood. Mockingly, the elder brother looks at him and says the boy should heal his wounds first. Vomiting blood, the young man calls for the healer to assist him, while others declare they don't want to fight the other boy. The healer approaches and says it's a minor wound, but the boy won't be able to fight or train during the recovery period. Frustrated, Zheng becomes very upset about this, while Fang Yuan's next opponent is called. Everyone exchanges glances, reluctant to face the protagonist. The event organizer keeps shouting, asking who's next, saying someone must stop the boy as he's been far too dominant lately. To encourage the others, he asserts that the boy isn't a monster, and that courage and pride are needed to represent the Guyu clan. Defeated looks spread among the opponents as they remark on how strong Fang Yuan is, noting that even his brother, who is at the same level, couldn't defeat him. Hoping to witness the protagonist's downfall, the instructor continues seeking someone to take him on in the ring. Still trying to motivate the group, the elder insists that perseverance will eventually lead to someone defeating the boy. The instructor then claims that Fang Yuan is at fault for delivering such strong blows and warns that if it happens again, he will be declared the loser and removed from the ring. Unapologetic, Yuan responds that he won't hold back because these fights are training, and in battle, he can't ask an opponent to go easy on him. Unconvinced, the elder retorts that it's different since the blows are injuring classmates, but the protagonist stands firm in his beliefs. He points out that it was the instructor who organized the training and increased the prize to 20 spiritual stones, which is why the students are getting hurt. The argument continues, and the teacher becomes enraged, accusing the boy of participating solely for the prize and again threatening to declare him the loser. Unbothered, Yuan says he doesn't care, and that it's just a mere competition with a prize attached. The onlookers watch the argument unfold, noting that even the instructor struggles to deal with the boy, while the elder keeps yelling for someone to step into the ring. Two people volunteer to fight the protagonist. Ready for the next match, Yuan notices that he's running out of stamina. Despite his past life experience, his current body is still that of a 15-year-old. He suspects the argument with the instructor was a ploy to tire him out so he could lose and end his winning streak. Realizing everyone is rooting for his defeat, he decides to endure the pressure but vows to be cautious of such schemes in the future. Watching from a distance, an elder concludes that the protagonist is highly cunning. He observes that Fang Yuan knows the academy's rules well, prompting others to search for any weakness to exploit against him. The elder remarks that while he has dealt with many rebellious students, he has never felt such disdain for one as he does for Fang Yuan. He concludes that this is due to the boy's innate arrogance. Moreover, while the other youths have kind hearts, this boy seems to have no fear at all. Unsure of how to handle the situation, the elder says he'll have to wait until other students reach the mid-stage of rank 1. Being young, the boy isn't a major concern yet, as there's still time to teach him gradually. Reflecting on the protagonist, the elder concludes that Fang Yuan is just a 15-year-old boy and that one day he'll be assimilated into the system. A girl approaches Zheng and asks if he was injured in the fight with his older brother. He reassures her not to worry, while she emphasizes that he's the family's future and can't afford to be hurt. Talking to his elder sister, Zheng mentions that he heard the other brother breathing heavily during the fight and that he isn't as strong as they once believed. The girl says it's expected of someone from that lineage, but Zheng declares he won't give up and will use this recovery time to improve his skills. Relieved by her brother's determination, she says he won't regret it when he becomes the class leader. Convinced once again, the boy assures his sister not to worry. The Chi family is introduced with two people standing face to face as an older man casts a light toward a young girl. In that moment, their gazes meet. Renewed, the girl thanks her grandfather for transferring spiritual energy to her, and the elder replies that it's necessary and that he will continue using such methods. The elder warns that it's a good method but leaves side effects, explaining what could happen to the girl. Without hesitation, she says she's willing to sacrifice those possibilities for the future of the Chi family. Convinced, the elder says that if she thinks this way, it's commendable, and that they could remove the side effects if they find the cleansing water goo. He also mentions that he's searching for the liquor worm for her, as it would completely free her from any side effects. The girl thanks her grandfather for his efforts, acknowledging how rare the liquor worm is and how hard he is working for her. Fang Yuan begins meditating. He holds his stones tightly in his hands until they turn to dust. Deep in concentration, he notices time is passing quickly and that in a few days he could reach the mid-stage. He continues meditating, whispering motivational words to gather enough strength to face his older brother. Determined, he promises to show what true strength and great talent look like. As his meditation deepens, the young man inches closer to the next level. With perseverance, the mid-stage could be achieved that very night. He closes his eyes. Suddenly, a green explosion occurs. All the green smoke condenses into a small energy orb. The protagonist declares he has reached the mid-stage and realizes it is already morning. Two men enter a room calling for Fang Yuan. Angry, they say the boy is too arrogant for skipping class without a valid reason and that the academy leader is waiting for him. The elder plans to make Yuan stand behind a door for 3 hours as punishment. Everyone senses that the veteran is furious, while Zheng thinks his brother is challenging authority and has no one to blame but himself for the punishment. A knock is heard at the door. All eyes turn toward it, understanding that the protagonist has arrived. A boy goes to open the door, announcing that Yuan is in big trouble. Before he can finish, he is shocked, his eyes widening in horror. The boy screams in panic and runs, leaving everyone wondering what happened. A bloodied hand touches the door. Yuan's shadow appears, dragging someone by the hair. Terrified, everyone watches the scene unfold. Without fear, the protagonist steps in, covered in blood, with a dead body beside him. The other students realize that Yuan has killed someone again, this time one of the guards sent by the veteran. Infuriated, the veteran demands that the boy explain himself and promises a severe punishment under the clan's rules. Unperturbed, Yuan mutters that he has an explanation. After a pause, he declares that this is indeed the case. Curious, the elder urges him to speak, pointing out the numerous mistakes the boy has made recently. Yuan quickly explains that he killed the guard because they interrupted his master-level cultivation by invading the room. Even though he had reached the mid-stage, the interruption happened at a critical moment and could have caused disastrous consequences. The protagonist goes on to explain that the guards failed to acknowledge their mistakes and were clearly there to sabotage his cultivation. Fearless, he states that he fought to save his life but didn't kill both guards, merely injuring them severely. Concluding, he invites them to judge him fairly. Hearing this, everyone is shocked. One boy wonders if he truly advanced to the mid-stage. Skeptical, none of them believe Yuan has reached such a level, not even the veteran, who suspects it's a ploy to avoid punishment. Seeking proof, Yuan invites the leader to check while opening his arms. Curious, the veteran places his hands on the boy's abdomen and a light shines. The elder is stunned by what he sees. The water wall is revealed and the elder concludes that Yuan has indeed advanced to the mid-stage, wondering how it was possible. Other students gather, eager to confirm what they've just seen. Without delay, the elder confirms that the protagonist has truly advanced to the mid-stage. Everyone is astonished, claiming it's impossible since Yuan is only a grade C talent. Even the older brother is baffled, unable to comprehend how the boy achieved it, knowing it's not easy to deceive a veteran. Seeking answers, the elder asks how the boy accomplished such a feat. Yuan responds that it was through hard work and great effort, but he is interrupted by a girl who declares it unfair. The elder, deep in thought, questions again whether the boy is lying. Without hesitation, the boy reaffirms that he is not lying. The two stand face to face, staring at each other. Before the conversation continues, the veteran ponders what might be wrong with the young man, suspecting he has a secret, and resolves to investigate on his own. His thoughts are interrupted by the protagonist, who claims to be frightened and asks what will happen to the guards who lost blood. The fact that the boy expresses fear surprises the veteran, but he assures him that the guards will be taken care of. While considering Fang Yuan's punishment, the elder reflects on what would be the most appropriate way to make him pay for his actions. Before making a decision, the veteran admits it might be true that the boy has reached the mid-stage, but he is determined to uncover the reason behind it. He recalls that the Academy's purpose is to nurture talent and not oppress it, and that it is essential to be impartial. With this, his decision must be well thought out. Though unsure of the best course of action, the elder refuses to let the matter slide. Observing the scene, Fang Yuan notes that the veteran must be deliberating on how to handle him. The boy concludes that this is indeed a battle of wits between the two. The protagonist believes he made a masterful move, using the guards as pawns in the game and even flipping the narrative by advancing to the mid-stage. On the other hand, the elder considers the boy's behavior, finding it astonishing for someone only 15 years old to act in such a manner. The mental battle between them continues, with Fang Yuan confident that the intent is merely to suppress him because of his great abilities. Seeking a solution, the veteran concludes that it is a waste of time to weigh words against the boy, realizing it's a trap. Offering a response, the protagonist highlights the pros and cons of punishing him, suggesting that the best option would be to pretend nothing happened. The veteran agrees, deciding to admit the guards were at fault and to congratulate Yuan, thus killing two birds with one stone. Believing the situation resolved, he acknowledges that the boy is quite insolent and does not respect him. However, there is still the issue of the guards feeling wrong and possibly revealing the truth later. Frustrated, the elder feels as if the boy is spitting in his face while he has to defend him. Feeling cornered, the teacher experiences humiliation and anger, blaming Yuan for it all. He wishes to slap the protagonist but restrains himself. Outwardly, he only congratulates the boy. The boy, meanwhile, appears flattered by the elder's words. The veteran attributes the boy's progress to the Academy's lessons. Elsewhere, two people discuss Yuan's achievement of first place again. A young man overhears and says it's not so strange that he reached the mid-stage, as it only requires specific elements. Another dismisses it as speculation, adding that the Academy will soon provide an official explanation. At the Academy, the veteran orders an investigation into the protagonist's strengths and weaknesses. 5 days pass. It is the day of the clan's allowance distribution, during which representatives and vice representatives for each class will be announced. The elder names the 4 winners of the evaluation: Fang Yuan, Mo Bai, Fang Zhang, and Qi Cheng. The protagonist is called to receive his first-place prize. Feeling it's unfair, other students say they thought Zhang would win the competition and speculate that he must be deeply frustrated. The first-place reward is handed over, with the elder confirming it consists of 30 spirit stones. Confident, the veteran remarks that even though the protagonist has advanced, he will always need spirit stones, and soon his talent will be exposed. As per the rules, in addition to the stones, Yuan is also allowed to choose his second gu. Simultaneously, the young man is named the class representative. The other students are outraged by the decision. Devastated, Zheng cannot believe he will now have to respect and bow to his older brother. The veteran believes this was a masterstroke, as it forces the boy to join the system and adapt. He moves to announce the vice representative positions. Before he can speak, he is interrupted. Fang Yuan declares himself unfit, calling it rude and ignorant, disqualifying himself from the position. He adds that someone with more talent would be better suited for such an important role. Everyone is stunned by his words. Enraged, the elder cannot comprehend why the boy is giving up the class representative position, accusing him of breaking the rules by refusing it. Unfazed, the boy stands firm in his refusal, leaving everyone incredulous at his decision. Later, everyone greets Mo Bai, the new class representative, who feels triumphant. Thoughtful, the younger brother wonders why the older one made such a decision. He approaches Yuan and directly asks him, to which Yuan responds that it's the same old rules as always. The boy states that he is now the vice representative of the class, and the protagonist remarks that he must now relinquish the 3 pieces, since he will receive an allowance of 5 spirit stones. The onlookers are shocked and question how he has the audacity, while Mo Bai asserts that the young man must respect him since he is the new representative. Before he can finish, Yuan punches him in the mouth. Angered by the attack, Mo Bai questions how the protagonist dared to hit him. Another strike lands. Unbothered, Yuan declares that it's time to change the rules, and from now on it will be 1 piece for regular students, 3 for vice representatives, and 8 for class representatives. Fang Yuan is knocking on a door while guards wonder what to do about the situation, with one saying he will do nothing. The other disagrees, cautioning his colleague to remember what happened to Wan Da and Wu Er. Meanwhile, students conclude that the protagonist gave up his position only to continue extorting everyone else. They realize that the roles of vice representative and representative won't change anything, since everyone will still be extorted in the same way. Hearing the rumors, the elder is outraged, finding the protagonist's actions toward his peers absurd. He begins to ponder the boy's strategy and its implications for the clan and the group's future. Yuan seems to be challenging the clan, carefully considering his actions before taking them. A guard asks the veteran what they should do, but he replies that it is not his place to handle the matter. Moreover, the boy has already shown signs of rebellion, making him a potential threat if this continues. The elder still doesn't understand why Yuan advanced to the mid-stage, and asks the guard what they have discovered in recent days. Quickly, the guard recounts Yuan's life story, sharing details about the boy's upbringing. Since childhood, the boy was assessed as having great talent but fell short of expectations after being rated a C grade. The protagonist's daily routine is also described. Additionally, the boy has a fondness for drinking bamboo green wine and keeps several bottles in his dormitory. Listening attentively, the elder begins to understand some of the boy's actions and why he behaves this way. Yoan's fall from being admired as a genius is also discussed, attempting to explain his completely undisciplined nature. Reflecting, the elder tries to connect all the dots from what he's learned to reach a conclusion. After much thought, he realizes the information is insufficient and scolds the soldier while someone knocks on the door. He orders the person to enter and a man approaches, stating there is an urgent matter. Jia Jinsheng's brother is missing. The veteran leaves his office and heads toward the location. As he walks, he reflects that it's not unusual for masters to disappear given the world is full of dangers. Additionally, anyone can die, but Jiujin's disappearance is concerning, especially in Guyu village. Another factor of concern is Jiujin's special status as Jiafu's brother, who is rank 4. Fearing potential repercussions, the veteran acknowledges that if war were to break out, it would be in grave trouble due to the vast difference in rank. The clan's reputation would also suffer if others learned of what happened. He considers the matter serious and realizes he must handle it carefully. A door opens and he enters the room. Everyone looks at him. Jiafu is visibly furious. The veteran tries to greet everyone, but he is interrupted. Without hesitation, the leader of the other clan requests to skip the pleasantries and demands to know where Yuan is. Hearing the boy's name, the elder wonders why it's being mentioned, concluding that Yuan must be cultivating in his dormitory. It is explained that Jiafu suspects his brother's disappearance is related to the protagonist and demands that he be brought to the location immediately. Jia thanks the attention of the Guyu leader and expresses his belief that the worst has happened to his brother. He explains that he was being very cautious but should have been more vigilant about his father's intentions. Now determined, Jia vows to find out who is responsible for his brother's disappearance. As the elder listens, Fang Yuan presents himself before the leader of the Jia clan. Although the boy is standing right in front of them, everyone remains uncertain if it's really him. Guyu feels slightly uneasy about the attempt to blame his clan for the disappearance. It's suggested that the protagonist has an identical twin, which could mean they brought the wrong person. Even so, Jia states that he has always respected the Guyu clan and hopes the elder will be impartial in judging and interrogating Fang Yuan properly. The elder assures them that he will handle the situation. Meanwhile, he reflects that if Yuan is guilty, he would be expelled, and if the guilt lies with Zheng, they could shift the blame to the twin brother. Trying to keep the protagonist calm, the veteran asks if he knew Jinxing, but the young man feigns ignorance. Quickly, a member of the other clan accuses the boy of lying, claiming to be a witness to the incident in the betting hall with the mud-skinned toad. Yuan realizes he's been caught in a lie and ponders his response. He claims he didn't know the man was Jinxing, saying he only saw him once and never again. The witness counters, insisting it's a lie, stating he saw the boy talking to Jinxing hours later near the wine shop. The boy angrily denies this, arguing that many people passed by the wine shop, but the man remains adamant. To support his claim, he says he couldn't have been mistaken because Yuan was holding a liquor worm in his hands. Everyone is shocked by the revelation. Triumphantly, the woman from the wine shop confirms seeing the liquor worm in the boy's hands earlier and insists she could never mistake it. Yuan panics, realizing the man is correct. The veteran grows furious, demanding to know where the boy obtained a liquor worm and warning that this puts him in serious trouble. Angrily, the elder presses the boy to reveal whether the liquor worm belonged to Jiu Jinxing. In denial, the protagonist claims he acquired it through gambling. The crowd looks at him, asking if he opened the stones he purchased. Unable to hide the truth any longer, Yuan explains that he found the liquor worm inside one of the stones he bought, leaving everyone baffled at how that was possible. The young woman from the wine shop confirms the boy's story about the stones, recounting what she witnessed. Many believe it was incredibly lucky to have found 2 special items in 6 stones, and Yuan continues explaining his actions. He claims Jinxing tried to buy the liquor worm from him, even pressuring him to sell, but he refused. The protagonist concludes that Jinxing became irritated, left, and was never seen again. Jiafu doesn't believe the story, asserting that his brother would never behave like that and based on what he's heard, accusing Yuan of murder. Without hesitation, he asks if the boy killed his brother. Reluctantly, the protagonist denies having killed anyone, but is challenged to prove it. Concerned about the situation, the veteran worries that Jiafu's threats and interrogation of a boy from his clan could escalate tensions. Attempting to calm the situation, the elder notes that Jinxing has been missing for days and suggests that the culprit might have left behind some evidence. Fu acknowledges the elder's point but counters that if evidence existed, he wouldn't have come seeking the culprit here. He concludes that the perpetrator is experienced in crime, leaving no evidence behind, and that the rain washed away any blood traces. The mention of the underworld path butterfly arises, and with the elder knowing that it could be used to locate the killer. Deshartenjia says he already tried that method, but it failed since once worms die, their scents vanish. During the discussion, the clan leader questions why anyone would want to kill Jinxing, pointing out that no worms or stones were stolen. Without a clear motive, some suggest he might have died for love or passion-related reasons. Taking advantage of the situation, Yuan mentions the inheritance feud between the brothers, attempting to shift the blame onto Fu. He concludes by implying that Fu himself might have killed Jinqing. Everyone demands he keep quiet and stop making baseless accusations. Fu becomes enraged, but the veteran apologizes, explaining that the boy doesn't know what he's saying. Nevertheless, a spark of suspicion ignites in Gu Yu's mind, leading him to wonder if Fu might indeed have killed his brother. With the inheritance dispute exposed, everyone begins to question who the real culprit behind the murder might be. Yuan celebrates internally for having turned the tables while everyone speculates on the new possibility. The veteran becomes convinced that there is no evidence against his student and that the liquor worm wouldn't have been sufficient motive. Fu reflects on the accusation and states that the person who might benefit from Jinqing's death is Jia Gai, another brother. He begins piecing together everything said and all the minor evidence collected, concluding that Gai is the real culprit. With this, everyone agrees that Fang Yuan is innocent and was merely with Jinqing at the wrong time. Gu Yu insists that the boy is too young to assassinate someone and destroy all evidence. The protagonist silently celebrates having successfully shifted everyone's opinion. Now he decides to proceed with the second part of his plan. Fu continues pondering, believing he now knows the truth but lacks the evidence to accuse Gita outright. Yuan, meanwhile, assesses the situation from his perspective. Seeking to verify his suspicions, Fu declares that there is only one way to be certain. He demands that the protagonist present proof that he didn't kill Jinqing and show where he was when the crime occurred. Fu asserts that if the boy cannot provide such proof, he will be deemed guilty. The crowd becomes outraged, accusing Fu of using the boy as a scapegoat. Nonetheless, the protagonist remains unfazed and states that he will present a witness. Fu expresses disbelief, pressing Yuan further about whether he truly has a witness. The protagonist decides to tell the truth, admitting he has no one to vouch for him, but he is interrupted. Gu Yu steps forward and declares that he will defend the student, claiming to be his witness, shocking everyone. He hesitates but reiterates his support for the boy. Firmly, the veteran declares that his investigations into Fang Yuan have made it clear that he couldn't have had the time to murder Jinqing. Pleased, the boy agrees, asserting that he's been busy with many tasks in recent days. Inwardly, the young man celebrates his successful manipulation of the elder. Feeling triumphant, the protagonist declares there is no longer any reason to accuse him and that no one can touch him despite Fu's protests. Refusing to accept this, Fu reveals a goo that can trace a person's last steps and announces his intention to track the boy's last 30,000 movements. The protagonist calmly agrees to the use of the goo. The goo is activated and sent toward the boy. Orders are given to trace his steps, and the protagonist becomes pensive. After some time, the staff return, pointing out all the locations the boy has been, none of which appear to be where Jinqing's body is. Still unconvinced, Fu declares that he will administer one more test, stating that if the boy passes, he will no longer interfere. Everyone is shocked when they see what the new test involves. It's a gentleman bamboo. The veteran wonders how the boy acquired such a rare rank 4 goo, and Yuan explains, describing the item and how it works to detect lies. Fang Yuan remains composed, stating he has no objections and will take the test. The atmosphere grows tense. Although he appears calm, the boy feels anxious, not having anticipated this type of goo being used. The gentleman bamboo is activated and the protagonist focuses intently. Fu asks if the boy killed his brother and he denies it. Next, Fu asks if he has any information about Jinqing and again the boy denies it. Finally, Fu asks if the boy lied earlier and once more he denies it. After the session of questions, the boy grabs the gentleman bamboo. It doesn't change color, remaining green. Jia feels guilty and apologizes for the accusations, while Gu Yu assures him it's fine and attributes everything to the use of the gentleman bamboo. Even so, Jia threatens to conduct a deeper investigation into his brother's death and vows to enlist Detective Zhuling. The entire group leaves the room. The clan leader feels relieved once everyone has departed. However, he asks the veteran to stay, saying he needs to speak with him. Gu Yu quickly says he wants to share a story with the boy. He recounts the tale of Renzu after guessing the Gu's names and gaining the power of longevity. The Gu agreed to obey Renzu's orders but declared they wouldn't grant the same power again. Accepting this, Renzu requested the capture of all other Gu in existence on the planet, a wish the Gu agreed to fulfill. Many lights begin to appear in the sky, and the young man is awestruck by their beauty. He is incredulous that his wish was granted and celebrates as all the Gus are delivered into his hands. However, when he tries to take them all, he finds that he cannot. Suspicious, he wonders why they are fleeing from him. It is explained that he lacks the strength and intelligence to use them, and that while the Gus were delivered, he must develop skills to utilize them. After fulfilling another wish, the Du imposes a new rule. They will now only capture one Gu at a time. The young man agrees and looks at which Gus he might use. He calls upon the Gu of strength and asks it to obey him, but the power replies it will only do so if he exchanges his youth for it. Renzu is upset, having just regained his youth, but reluctantly agrees to the deal. Now slightly older, the man attempts to command the Gu of wisdom. Like the previous one, the request is denied unless he surrenders his middle age in exchange. Frustrated, the man refuses and persuades the Gu of wisdom to stay by revealing how he managed to capture it. Without much thought, Renzu admits that rule and regulation helped him, inadvertently revealing their secret names. With their names exposed, the Gus declare they will no longer allow themselves to be captured. The man panics, realizing his mistake. Rule and regulation explain that they now must obey the Gus orders, complicating matters further. The clan leader continues telling the story but is interrupted by the elder, who asks if it is an analogy. He wonders if Fang Yuan represents wisdom, while the clan is Renzu, who thought he had captured wisdom but ultimately allowed it to escape. Understanding the parallel, the veteran asks if he should continue pressuring the protagonist to uncover more secrets. Gu Yu acknowledges the elder's understanding but asserts that the young man's actions are inconsequential compared to the overall student body's situation. He acknowledges the elder's concern for the other students but notes that each has others supporting them and ensuring they do not falter easily. The conversation shifts to how Fang Yuan has surpassed expectations but may eventually fall into his own trap. Despite this, the veteran remains worried about the broader impact on the students. Gu Yu remains unconcerned, stating that conflicts among the students are inevitable, with Fang Zheng slated for battle the next evening. The clan leader advises patience with Fang Yuan, suggesting that the young man's hostility stems from his fall from being a genius to becoming an ordinary human. He notes that Fang Yuan is still quite immature, evidenced by his clumsy attempt to hide the liquor worm. Drawing another parallel to Renzu's story, Gu Yu continues defending the protagonist. He concludes that although Fang Yuan is a third-class talent, he remains Zheng's blood brother and asks if the veteran understands this. Furthermore, he observes that while the clan's rules may no longer function as they once did, they can still survive within the family. The conversation ends. Reflective, the clan leader contemplates the day's events. Elsewhere, Fu and his servants deliberate on their return without Jinxing and whether they need to find a scapegoat. The story of other Gus captured by Renzu is recounted. The leader of the other clan asks which Gu Renzu captured last, and his servant speculates it might be the Gu of Attitude. Quickly, the leader asks why, and the servant explains that attitude encompasses everything. The leader then elaborates that ever since his brother's death, he has conducted investigations and returned to the village for details. He explains that his spending on detectives and exhaustive efforts reflect his attitude. Fu concludes that his conscience is clear and that it doesn't matter whether his father believes him as he is at peace. The servant asks if the leader thinks Jud Gai is the true culprit, and he replies that there is no one else he suspects. Elsewhere, Fang Yuan celebrates resolving the issue with Jinxing and now turns his attention to the upcoming Gu conference, wondering if it will be postponed. The protagonist observes someone he considers an intriguing character and anticipates returning later. By then, he plans to be rank 2 or even rank 3, changing the dynamics significantly. As he reflects, he recalls folklore about monkeys trying to understand the moon. He remembers how the group touched the moon through its reflection in the water, only for it to dissolve. Fang Yuan concludes that people are similar, mistaking the moon's reflection for reality. The young man is in the middle of a forest, guided by the moonlight. He looks at the moon in the sky and states that he hopes to walk the path of darkness and rise above all the heavens. Time passes a little. Attentively, the protagonist observes something. Finally, he celebrates breaking the entrance to the Flower Wine Monk's inheritance. The day to choose the second Gu arrives, and Yuan is the first to proceed and make his selection. All the other students are concerned about which Gu he might choose, given that he already has the rare liquor worm. Under a tree, Zheng talks with the clan chief. He is asked which Gu he would choose, and the boy says he wants the bronze skin. Gu Yu says is a good choice, while Zheng claims he chose randomly. Even so, the chief praises the boy, saying he made a great choice, and it shows his mature disposition. Mo Bai, on the other hand, chose the long-horned camel beetle. Shi Cheng opted for the dragon pill cricket. Fang Zheng then asks which Gu his brother chose. The clan chief reveals it was the little light, which enhances the moonlight and strengthens attacks. Quickly analyzing, young Gu Yu notices the influence of the protagonist's choice on his brother. He decides to show the boy one of the precious stones and asks if he knows what it is. Simply, the man explains about the stone and asks if the boy would like to have it, to which Zheng responds affirmatively. The man agrees to give the gift, but with one condition. Gu Yu says that to receive the stone, the boy must be the first to become a rank 2 Gu master and the first in cultivation. Realizing the boy is afraid, he offers to give the stone to someone else, but states that he trusts Zheng. Zheng promises he will win the battle against his brother and become the first rank 2 Gu master. Elsewhere, Yuan observes the hole he dug. The boy touches the wall and notices it is very smooth, concluding it was modified before, though he does not understand why the Flower Wine Monk would have done this. Looking closer, the protagonist notices the wet ground and approaches. He touches it, and the treasure flower of the earth blooms, appearing to preserve a Gu inside it. In the blink of an eye, the flower opens, and the protagonist discovers a white boar Gu inside. Fang Yuan observes the situation and believes the monk wants him to refine the boar and then remove it from the stone. The young man ponders how he might do this, realizing the Gu's food is pork, which is quite expensive in this world. If it cannot be fed with pork, there is only one option. Without hesitation, he decides to hunt on his own. Looking at the forest floor, the boy notices pig tracks and believes that if he follows them, he may find the animal he seeks. Walking a few meters, the boy encounters a pig trapped in a snare. He approaches and observes the scene, believing the animal was caught by other hunters. Even so, he does not hesitate and decides to take the pig for himself until he hears a nearby conversation. The group approaches and notices the protagonist near the animal's corpse. Trying to understand, they ask who the boy is, what kind of advantage he was trying to take, and demand that he leave the area. Ignoring the order, the boy laughs and quickly launches an attack at one of the group members. The man's hand is cut and he screams in pain. Realizing that Yumon is a goo master, everyone kneels and begs for forgiveness, except for the group's leader, who decides to face him. The protagonist notes the man's bravery, impressed that he does not panic upon seeing him. Quickly, the young man launches another attack at the leader, injuring his face. Angry at what just happened, the man shoots an arrow at Fang Yuan. Effortlessly, the boy dodges and advances toward his opponent. The two engage in hand-to-hand combat, staring each other down. An attempt is made to punch Yuan in the face, but he dodges, continuing to evade every other strike aimed at him. At one point, a blow lands squarely, knocking the protagonist to the ground. Sensing danger, the rest of the group begs Wang to back away. Yuan makes a giant leap to the dismay of everyone. He lands on the group leader. Suddenly, a large amount of blood sprays toward the rest of the group. The young man carefully examines the scene and notices that the man is dead. The protagonist reflects that it was foolish to provoke a goo master and concludes that humans are ordinary. Finally, he demands to be taken to the group's village. While walking, he listens to the group's conversation. At that moment, a village is presented. A young woman is seen drawing water from a well, appearing visibly tired. A man approaches her and asks if she has been secretly planting without his knowledge again. The girl explains that she was simply fetching water so her father could rest a bit longer. He invites his daughter to water the plants with him. As they work, the pair chat, and the man expresses his exhaustion, mentioning that he needs to rest and find a family for the young woman. Their conversation continues. Suddenly, they are interrupted. The group led by Yuan arrives at the village and he wonders if the old man is Wang's father. Realizing it is a goo master, the man kneels. Without hesitation, the protagonist declares that he killed the old man's son because he was confronted. Everyone panics and begins crying. Yuan demands that the old man draw a map of the mountain trails as he is an experienced hunter. Outraged, the man's daughter attacks the protagonist, calling him a murderer and vowing to avenge her brother. Quickly, the father scolds the girl, asking if she wishes to die as well. The old man apologizes to Yuan, stating that his son deserved to die and offering to draw the map. Sympathetically, Yuan agrees, stating that if the map is well made, he will spare the group's lives. But he warns that if he finds anything suspicious, everyone will die. Without delay, the old man asks for paper and a brush to begin drawing. Still trying to reason with Yuan, the old man insists there is no need for such measures. With paper and brush in hand, the map is drawn and handed to the protagonist. The man orders two men to examine the map, promising they will be rewarded with spirit stones if they find errors. The two are thrilled by the generous payment they might receive. After analyzing the map, the men return it, claiming there are no errors, though Yuan remains suspicious. Everyone kneels before him, insisting they would not dare lie as their lives are at stake. Yuan questions whether they are telling the truth. Even so, he says he doesn't believe them. Without a second thought, he decapitates the old man. The girl, horrified to see her father killed, rushes toward the murderer. Suddenly, she falls, hitting her head and dying as well. The servants beg for their lives, insisting they did nothing wrong. Yuan decides to spare their lives if they can find the beast hide map. Both frantically search, claiming they will locate it soon. Failing to find it, the pair grows increasingly desperate. They continue pleading for their lives as Yuan wonders whether they genuinely could not find the map and where it might be hidden. His attention turns to a stove where something catches his eye. Bending down, he retrieves a black object from among the wood. Quickly, he realizes it is different from the other charcoal pieces. Upon closer examination, he confirms it is the map he was seeking. Yuan scrutinizes the map and determines that the old man had indeed lied. It becomes clear the man likely did so to avenge his son. The protagonist asks the servants if any family members are still alive, and they deny it. The two explain that everyone in the family has already died. Sparing their lives, Yuan orders the servants to leave as their task is complete. They thank him profusely, promising to remember his mercy. Before they leave, Fang Yuan warns them not to tell anyone what happened there. A man arrives, introducing himself as Jiang He of the Guyu clan. The protagonist assesses the situation and speaks with him. He explains his reasons for killing the entire family. Jiang He agrees with his actions, stating the reasons were valid and justified. Even so, Jiang He insists he will report the case for judgment and asks the boy's name. Without hesitation, he replies, Fang Yuan Guyu. The man is surprised upon hearing the name, mentioning he has heard much about him before. He offers to help Yuan as a favor, but asks that he refrain from killing more people. Yuan thanks him for the advice, but declines the offer of help. Night falls, and the protagonist resumes his search for pigs. Quickly, he finds what he is looking for. He launches an attack on the animal, which collapses dead. Even so, Fang reflects that it was harder than he expected. With the animal dead, he summons the white boar. Quickly, the animal's meat is devoured. Pensive, the protagonist concludes that the goo won't be hungry for the next 5 days. He meditates and resolves to be cautious, focusing on his growth. 6 months later, Zheng is summoned. He takes first place in the rank and as a result receives a prize. Happy and fulfilled, he declares that he has finally beaten his brother. The other students say that's what they expected from a classless student. In the classroom, the teachers explain how the exams will work and how the results will be calculated. While everyone discusses the results, Ewan sits at the back of the class, quietly listening. He recalls last year's tests and the methods he used to pass. But much has changed, and if he uses the same methods again, he could lose significant advantages. The young man remains deep in thought about the exam and considers the prizes, which are very generous, deciding it might be worth the risk. However, his reputation isn't great, and he realizes he needs to change how people perceive him. Zheng approaches and says he didn't expect his brother to steal from him again. The two glare at each other and exchange words about their rivalry. The younger one believes things are different now and that this will be the first time he truly beats his brother. He calls out to the elder, vowing to prove he has changed. Before he can attack, Zheng collapses to the ground. Confused, he wonders what happened, and the protagonist remarks that he isn't going to steal his stones this time, making it Zheng's lucky day. The story reaches the ears of the higher-ups, who analyze Yuan's choice to use force but refrain from taking Zheng's spirit stones. The veteran ponders the reasons behind this behavior and discusses Yuan's future with the clan leader. Time passes. A boar approaches and all the students scatter in fear, firing arrows at the animal. Eventually, the boar falls dead. The group celebrates their successful kill. Servants report to the veteran on the progress of the exam, noting that the students are completing the trials smoothly. Yuan's skills are also discussed among the school's elders. Meanwhile, the young man decides to investigate the spot marked with a red circle on the map, thinking that if he uncovers something suspicious, he'll earn points with the teachers. He arrives at a treehouse and decides to investigate. Upon looking around, he notices signs that someone has been living there, such as clothing. Suddenly, he spots a drawing of himself with a knife stabbed through it. Quickly, he deduces that someone considers him an enemy. He wonders who could be behind this and why they are targeting him. He recalls his past encounters with Wang and the battles they fought. But then he remembers that the entire family is dead and cannot fathom who it could be. Lost in thought, he tries to make sense of the situation. After further analysis, he concludes it could be Wangda, whom he believed was dead. Without hesitation, he becomes certain that Wangda is not only alive, but also seeking vengeance. He notices a blood-stained blanket. Lifting it, he finds the servants he spared earlier, now dead. The young man realizes that Wangda extracted all the information from them and killed them afterward. Before anything else, Yuan decides he needs to leave the area immediately. But he also considers whether there might be an opportunity with Wangda. He begins to wonder what rank his opponent might be and whether he can fight him head-on. An examiner perched in a tree observes everything until he detects his scent. Before anything else can happen, his mouth is covered and he is killed. The assailant celebrates, saying that's one less person, though it costs 40% of his spiritual energy, and he must be careful. Meanwhile, Yuan runs to survive, aware of the opponent's power. As he flees, he is spotted by another exam observer. At that moment, the observer is also attacked by the villain. Someone watches the scene and wonders who the young man is. Quickly, they attack him with their arms and realize he's a rank 2. Wasting no time, the man kills this observer too. He notices a crescent moon on his tongue. The crescent moon transfers directly to the young man's chest. Another person falls and the assassin celebrates another near death. He declares that humans are ordinary creatures who will not survive in this world. The man expresses his overwhelming rage. Still alive, the fallen young man whispers that he had to kill his own wife to refine the Gyu and chose power as his means to survive. Without hesitation, the man vows to make the assassin pay for everything he has done when suddenly he spots Yuan running. He wonders why another examiner is in the area. Fearlessly, he orders the shadow Gu to follow the young man. A blue light fills the air. Gu Yusu appears and declares that if the villain surrenders, the clan will spare his life. The villain refuses, saying he would need to kill the clan leader first. But the leader defends himself as best as he can. Yuan appears running nearby and the villain decides to chase after him, determined not to let his opponent escape. Catching and grabbing the young man by the neck, he realizes it's not Yuan, it's Zheng, who screams that he has a twin brother. Zheng Ying steps between the boy and the assassin, revealing himself as another examiner. The man declares he has come to the rescue and demands that the one on the path of demonic cultivation surrender. The assassin, however, vows to kill him first. The warrior transforms his arms into stone and begins deflecting the assassin's attacks. Taking advantage of the moment, he lands a punch. The assassin falls to the ground, coughing blood, and remarks that he will die there as he only has 5% of his spiritual energy left. Zhang Yang urges the man to surrender due to his depleted energy. But the assassin lunges at Fang Zheng, declaring that if he is to die, he will take the boy with him. Kumyu Su appears to attack the assassin, but the latter says it's too late. The boy panics as the assassin approaches, speaking of separation. With his claws, the villain tells the boy to go to hell, but the mage shouts no and attacks him with his hair. Fang Zheng freezes as the assassin's claws stop just short of his face. The hair thrown at the assassin stops him, slicing his skin, while the tip of his claw grazes the boy's forehead. The man embraces a woman and stabs her with a knife. Crying, he apologizes as the woman asks why he did it. They hold each other tightly, and she tells him she understands and asks him to take care of himself. He regrets his actions deeply but acknowledges that he would do it all over again if given another chance. Returning to the fight, Fang Zheng sees the man injured and wonders if it's finally over. He notices blood dripping from his forehead and his face begins turning purple. As he suspected, its cultivation wasn't enough and he collapses. Villagers discuss how 2 Gu-level examiners died and 1 boy was injured. Hearing the boy's name, one villager expresses surprise that he survived, calling him unlucky, and the others start debating his talent. Passing by the villagers, Fang Yuan hears his brother's name and thinks it's no surprise that nothing significant happened to him. It seems he didn't gather the necessary information and encountered the wrong people. He wonders if the higher-ups suspect activities on other mountains. Though he anticipated an assassination attempt, he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. He questions if the Bai or Xiang families were behind it. Meanwhile, Mo Bai collects 14 boar tusks. Qi Chang celebrates, thinking he will take first place, but another competitor complains that he fell just short. As the elder prepares to announce the exam's first place, he hears Fang Yuan say, "Wait." The young man points out that he is late and that the exam ended over an hour ago. According to the rules, 4 tusks should be subtracted from his haul. At that moment, Yuan states that he accepts the penalty and pulls out a bag filled with dozens of boar tusks. Both competitors are stunned and one accuses him of cheating. Hu Yubo asks how he collected so many tusks and Yuan explains that he only hunted a dozen but found the bag. He points out that the rules only required returning the tusks. With the results confirmed, the elder declares Fang Yuan the first place winner. The other participants continue accusing him of cheating, claiming his win is invalid. Later that night, Yuan and other village elders gather in a hall to discuss important matters. One man asks the clan's top Bu elder, Yu Yaoji, about Fang Zheng's condition. Yaoji replies that the boy is stable, his life is not in danger, but he remains unconscious and his aptitude hasn't diminished. The clan leader orders guards to be stationed around him and asks if anyone has started an investigation yet. Another elder reports that there is information about the suspect, a 35-year-old man whose identity remains unknown. The elder suspects that the man is a Gu master on the demonic path, possessing both the love separation Gu and the shadow assistant Gu. The others in the room are shocked that the suspect holds the love separation Gu. A cultivator comments that it's no wonder he managed to kill 3 masters from their clan. The group begins speculating whether the Bai or Xiang families are involved or if the suspect is a demonic Gu master specifically trained to kill the boy. The elder agrees that both scenarios are plausible. Gu Yubo inquires about Fang Zheng and the clan leader assures him that he is recovering well before reporting that Fang Yuan earned first place in the exam, explaining the situation with the boar tusks. The other 3 men speculate whether the story is false, whether the boy was secretly helped, or if many others, including examiners and teachers, were aware of it. They question who might have secretly supported the young cultivator. It is proposed that someone may have been trying to recruit him into their faction. Given Fang Zheng's great talent, he is likely to become a rank 4 Gu master and a future clan leader. The brothers therefore represent valuable assets, with Fang Yuan potentially becoming a crucial pawn for his brother. Suspicion grows among the men, each doubting the others as none admit to speaking with Fang Yuan. They begin to suspect the clan leader himself might have aided the boy, intending to tie him to his faction and strengthen his power base in the future. The clan leader, in turn, doubts the men, thinking they are skilled actors. He wonders whether someone else entirely might be involved. The leader concludes that Fang Zheng's progress is significant and suggests that their Gu Yu clan must show its strength to deter potential threats. He assigns Elder Antang to handle the situation and develop a plan for reporting it. Turning his attention to Fang Yuan, the leader emphasizes the importance of the boy's great talent for the clan. To prevent further attacks, he proposes to mentor the boy personally from that day forward. Regarding Fang Zheng, the leader acknowledges the challenges the boy overcame as a grade C talent and rewards him with 30 spirit stones in recognition. He instructs the academy elder to deliver the message to Fang Zheng, encouraging him to continue working hard. One elder privately wonders why the reward is precisely 30 spirit stones, not too much, not too little, and questions who might be supporting Fang Yuan in secret, if not the clan leader. As the elders leave the academy, the leader reflects that he needs to keep a closer watch on Fang Yuan in the future. In the cave, Fang Yuan notes that 10 days have passed since the exam, and he has smoothly reached the peak of Rank 1 Stage 1, progressing faster than in his previous life. The White Boar Gu provides him with explosive strength when pushed to his limits, which he believes he has now reached. Having met the requirements of the wine and flower monk, Fang Yuan decides it's time to progress further in the inheritance. Pushing a large stone, he counts his steps and reaches 30. The previous week, he had exhausted himself at 45 steps, and now he wonders how far he can go, eventually reaching 50. Releasing the stone and stepping back, he wonders if he has reached the end. However, another stone blocks the chamber ahead. Examining the new barrier, he concludes that the wine and flower monk must have left it behind. He notices a flower on the ground, likely the second Earth Treasure flower, and guesses it is part of the next test. When the flower opens, it reveals a jade skin Gu. Holding it, Fang Yuan believes the monk has prepared everything for him. With it, he could fuse the white boar goo with the jade skin goo, creating a white jade goo. The jade skin goo offers excellent defensive capabilities, and combined with the white boar goo, it could achieve maximum potential. However, maintaining it is expensive. It requires 2 pieces of jade stone every 10 days. Previously, he hunted boars. Now he wonders if he will need to mine. Fang Yuan stands and touches the stone walls, looking up at the stalactites. He notices holes within them. The young man notices that the entire rock surface glows and wonders if this is the King Mao Mountain, speculating if the stones are influencing the area. He understands the monk's intention in giving him the jade skin goo and realizes something. Casting spells toward one of the stones, an animal emerges and attacks him. The cultivator easily defeats it with a few strikes. Upon closer inspection, he sees that it is an underground colony full of jade-eyed stone monkeys. When they die, they turn into stone and only their eyes transform into jade pearls. Exactly 2 per monkey. It seems the monk intends for him to train there. The next step in his inheritance journey should be somewhere within that stone forest. The stone pillars house at least 100 monkeys, and there could be countless more within the stone forest. Based on his current strength, he would be defeated if surrounded by just 4 of them. Fortunately, they won't leave their stone pillars as long as he remains 10 meters away and won't attack unprovoked. Fang Yuan decides to rest and train his goo over the coming days, spending the next 2 months doing so. One day, while in the forest, a boar charges at him. He summons the jade skin goo. Using it, he blocks the boar's tusks. With the animal restrained, he delivers a powerful punch, defeating it. With the boar defeated, the cultivator extracts the white boar goo. He notes that the jade skin goo drains a lot of his spiritual energy. After a few rounds, he's left with only half his energy. Sitting on the ground, he reflects on how his brother had been poisoned, leaving him unconscious for 7 days. When he woke up, he was stronger, and Fang Yuan is certain his brother has now reached rank 1. Although he isn't far behind, his grade C talent makes it much more difficult. Additionally, he has been searching for clues in the stone forest, making slow progress. There's nothing wrong with the pillars within the forest. It now seems the next step in his inheritance is hidden somewhere at its center. While pondering, a wolf emerges from the bushes. The animal approaches the boar's carcass to sniff it, but then retreats into the bushes. Fang Yuan wonders why the wolf followed, but hears a loud noise from the forest and questions what could have frightened it. A man carrying a wolf on his shoulders appears before him. This is Du Yu Chishin, but he simply ignores Fang Yuan and turns away, walking in another direction. Chishin is a hero among rank 2 Goo Masters, the #1 warrior on King Mao Mountain, and someone with a background similar to Fang Yuan's, though Chishin was of 3rd-class talent. After the year-end exam, Fang Yuan will no longer be allowed to live in the school dormitory, leaving him to wonder if he should return to his uncle's house. Currently, he is raising 6 Goo. Soon he will need to reach rank 2, but is already running low on spirit stones. It seems Fang Yuan must secure 1st place in the year-end exam. Year-end martial arena. The elder announces that a year has passed, during which the youths have earned their qualifications to become Goo Masters. The next day is the year-end exam. Not only will the families and clan elders be watching, but the older generation will also observe the test. The youth's performance will significantly impact their futures, as those who perform well will be selected for various teams. Additionally, the 1st-place winner of the exam will receive 150 spirit stones as a reward and an advantage in capturing Goo worms. After sharing this information, the elder declares the final exam has begun. The ranks of several youths are announced. Gu Yu Jinzu, rank 1, mid-stage, Gu Yu Jiang, rank 1, initial stage, and Gu Yu Zayu, rank 1, upper stage. Next is Gu Yu Fang Yuan, announced as rank 1, peak stage. The other youths begin murmuring, questioning the accuracy of his rank and whether he truly achieved it. One comments that it's luck. He has the liquor worm, which helps refine essence, but the worm won't work on rank 2 essence, so his advantage won't last. Another adds that although they're on equal footing now, he is a grade C talent and poses no threat. Another name, Fang Zhang, is called, sparking more speculation. Fang Zhang reflects that his brother has surprised him but knows that what's coming next will be even more impressive. All eyes turn to him as the elder announces that Fang Zhang is rank 2, initial stage. The young cultivators are stunned. That was their 1st-class aptitude and the hope of his clan. With a smile, the cultivator thinks he will never let the clan leader down and that he has already surpassed his brother and will defeat him the next day. His brother, smiling, reflects that he is at a higher stage compared to his previous life and that his behavior has a significant impact on others. As the day progresses, the battles in the arena continue with everyone watching. Yao Hong comments that the level of martial skills in this batch is quite high, and King Shu laughs, saying it's all thanks to Fang Yuan. He explains that everyone was indirectly trained by the young man who even intimidated his younger brother because of his somewhat lawless nature. One of the men announces that the next match will be between Jinju and Mo Bai. The crowd begins discussing their families and their respective stages. The youths fight, and the girl ultimately admits defeat. Everyone celebrates the young cultivator's victory. Fang Zhang thinks about his brother and how that is the difference in strength between their cultivation, waiting until the match begins to let him experience the true terror of his level. Watching his brother observe everything, he anticipates reaching the final rounds. In the arena, cultivators clash and Qi Cheng uses his skills to easily win a match. Yao Hong, observing, comments that, as expected, a rank 1 peak stage cultivator poses no threat to them. Thus, the battles continue with Fang Zheng, Mo Bai, and Fang Yuan all winning their matches. The crowd applauds and the cultivators begin receiving offers to join other clans. A female cultivator remarks to King Shu that the tournament is becoming boring, that she feels sleepy. King Shu responds that other leaders have already started recruiting people. He adds that the true strength lies with the last 3 winners, and that there's little point in watching until the finals. It seems many agree as spectators start yawning. The announcer calls the next match, Fang Zheng versus Mo Bai. Pointing at his opponent, Mo Bai declares that he won't lose just because the other is ranked 2 and vows to overcome the challenge. With that, the battle begins. Typically, they start by using moon blades before engaging in close combat, but Mo Bai advances, making Fang Zheng wonder if he isn't afraid. The cultivator charges at his opponent, attacking from all sides. The crowd watches in shock at the intense battle. Yao Hong notes that Fang Zheng is bold for engaging his opponent so closely. King Shu remarks that this is thanks to the clan leader's mentorship. Normal students fight from a distance of 10 meters as going closer reduces the blade's effectiveness. Now they're at a distance of 6 meters, indicating that it wasn't just the clan leader who helped. Fang Zheng has worked hard as well. He continues his assault on Mo Bai, who struggles to defend himself, while his sister shouts in concern. The winner of the battle is Fang Zheng, who asks the clan leader not to let him down. The clan leader responds, saying he has great potential and is willing to invest in him, emphasizing that the year-end exam will be his moment to shine. Fang Zheng agrees, determined not to disappoint him. Mo Bai screams that he won't lose and insists he can still fight, but is restrained by the other youths. As they restore their energy, everyone comments on how Fang Zheng's skills resemble those of someone who was trained for a year. They acknowledge that the clan leader trained him, so it's logical he would be powerful. The next match is announced, Qi Cheng versus Fang Zheng. Qi Cheng remarks that while Fang Zheng defeated Mo Bai, he will be defeated this time, hoping to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. However, he is surprised to notice that his opponent uses the same movements as before. With quick leaps, Qi Cheng creates distance between them. Smirking, he points out that Fang Zheng lacks a speed boost and won't catch him, adding that his tactics might have worked before but not now. Fang Zheng smiles back. Fang Zheng taunts him, saying to keep dodging as each use of that ability consumes spiritual energy. With triple the resistance, once Qi Cheng's stamina is exhausted, he will lose. Qi Cheng reflects that Fang Zheng seems confident. The youths watching comment that Qi Cheng's strategy is good, and after all, he is a disciple of the clan leader. King Shu observes that Fang Zheng has not only become stronger but also smarter, no longer the impulsive person he once was. Realizing Fang Zheng is right, Qi Cheng charges at him. As expected, the cultivator truly is the hope of the clan. If nurtured properly, he may one day stand against Bai Ningming of the Bai family. In the arena, the 2 brothers continue to fight, with Fang Zheng attacking and his opponent defending. One of the spectators comments that the young man seems poised to take first place that year, while another looks on, intrigued. The cultivator kicks his opponent, sending him to the ground, and he is declared the winner. Looking at his brother and smiling, Fang Zheng remarks that he's different from before and that this time, he'll defeat him. Qi Cheng and Mo Bai, successors of their clans, are now being overshadowed by the faction of the winner. It seems that in the future, the clan leader's faction will suppress those 2 families. The next fight is announced, the battle between the brothers. The spectators begin to murmur, saying the fight will be interesting as they finally get to see 2 brothers face off, which makes it exciting. The clan leader reflects that the greatest shadow in his disciple's heart is likely his brother, but with his rank 2 cultivation, he is confident Fang Zheng will win this time. Fang Zheng tells his brother to admit defeat, boasting that he has over 80% of his spring essence while Fang Yuan has around 40%, leaving him no chance. Fang Yuan retorts that he knows too much about his essence and asks him to drop the lies. He points out that if essence alone determined victory, there'd be no point in fighting at all. Charging at him, Fang Zheng warns his brother not to blame him for being harsh due to his stubbornness. Fang Zheng leaps at his brother, startling the crowd with his movement. However, instead of retreating, Fang Yuan runs toward him, catching him off guard. Fang Zheng attempts a punch, but Fang Yuan dodges, leaving him stunned. Fang Yuan then lands a strike, sending his brother flying across the arena and nearly out of bounds. The audience is shocked as Fang Yuan not only evaded his brother's special move, but also had the audacity to directly confront the Moon Blade. Both brothers lock eyes and Fang Yuan charges again, prompting Fang Zheng to assume an offensive stance with his Moon Blade activated. Fang Zheng launches multiple attacks, but Fang Yuan dodges everyone, unnerving him. Before he can react, Fang Yuan strikes him in the stomach. As Fang Zheng braces for another attack, he raises his arms in defense, startling everyone. But the attack doesn't land. When he looks forward and realizes there's no threat, he suddenly feels a blow from behind, which throws him to the edge of the arena once more. Raising his head to declare his name, Fang Zheng finds his brother stepping on him, causing him to spit blood. Each time he tries to rise, Fang Yuan's foot pins him down and he grows increasingly irritated. On his final attempt, Fang Yuan jumps on his head, forcing him to stop moving. The crowd is stunned, including the clan leader. Yao Hong remarks that Fang Yuan cannot be intimidated. In the arena, Fang Zheng continues struggling against his brother's foot. He acknowledges his brother's strength and deliberates on what to do when he remembers his moonlight goo. They're so close that, if he launches an attack, Fang Yuan won't be able to dodge. However, before he can act, his hand begins to ache. Desperately, Fang Zheng cries out, realizing his brother is hurting him without hesitation. The audience murmurs that Fang Yuan is cruel for treating his younger brother that way. On the ground, Fang Zheng admits he can't take it anymore, that this is the end, and that in the end he couldn't defeat his brother. Witnessing the scene, others in the audience recall how Fang Yuan stole spiritual stones and bullied his younger brother. Mo Bai, enraged, shouts for Fang Zheng to stand up and defeat his brother on his behalf. Fang Yuan glances around and sees all the other youths supporting his opponent. Fang Zheng hears everyone chanting his name, urging him to stand up, and realizes they're all rooting for him. He hears people talking about the exam and their desire to see his talent, while others condemn his brother's intimidation of everyone. He feels their faith in him. He envisions the clan leader saying he must conquer the shadow in his heart, as it all depends on him, and a girl affirming they could be together after he wins the tournament. All these voices encourage him. From the stands, everyone he has fought yells their support. Rising with clenched fists, Fang Zheng resolves that he cannot fall now. The clan leader urges him to rise and face his shadow, assuring him he will become the true hope of the clan. Stating fully, Fang Zheng fills himself with spiritual energy, activating his jade skin goo. The crowd erupts in excitement. Fang Yuan notes that it's the jade skin goo, and as Fang Zheng rises, he hears everyone chanting his name. Fang Zheng calls out to his brother, declaring he has risen. This time, he says he will defeat Fang Yuan definitively. Fang Yuan, with a sly smile, asks if he really believes that and prepares to fight once more. Then he says he wasn't good enough and lands another punch on him. Fang Zheng doesn't understand how his brother broke through his defense, as it was supposed to be impossible. And so he took a punch to the chin from his opponent, which made him fall again, wondering how it happened. Everyone is shocked by the scene, and the brother with his bloodied fist apologizes for disappointing everyone. The clan leaders cannot hide their surprise. Then standing in the arena, one of the youths wonders how he could have broken through the jade skin defense. They remark that he was wild for shattering the jade light in that way, not using any defensive weapon, but only his hands. The leader thinks he was not only ruthless with his brother, but also with himself. Then the elder approaches the young man to check on his condition. It seems there were no severe injuries, but his head took a great hit, causing temporary unconsciousness. The elder comments that it was hard to believe someone could break the defense of a jade skin goo with bare hands and handle such a heavy bow. With his back to Fang Yuan, the man says he would treat him. Taking his hand, he notices that even his bones were visible and cracked from the force of the blow. Despite the intense pain, the cultivator did not show any sign of suffering. Then he tells him to wait, as the healing would be itchy and painful, and he uses his spiritual energy to begin, holding his fist. He took the opportunity to transfer a bit of his divine sense inside to investigate the aperture. After investigating his entire body, there was only a crescent moon goo and a small light goo in the palm of his hand. There were no other gusts, and he wonders if the young man relied solely on his physical strength to break the jade defense. His strength had already surpassed that of any ordinary person, but he was just a 15-year-old boy. Fang Yuan thanks the elder for the treatment and notices that, although painful, the wound was healed, and his only goal was to hide his aperture. He saw it coming, so he placed his white boar goo and jade skin goo in his hidden secondary aperture. As for Chumshu, a rank 6 goo, even rank 4 goo Bo wouldn't be able to find it if he wanted to hide it. The youths start commenting on the strength of the winner as he defeated a rank 2, and Chishin, irritated, thinks about how noisy they were. They continue to comment that it seemed heaven had its own plans and compensated the brother with strength, wondering how they could be stronger than him. One of them mentions that 6 months ago he risked his life using boar tusks to create a second layer of protection in the camp, which was now coming into play. The clan leader thinks that under his guidance, the young man was the first to make a breakthrough. After the fight, he fears his confidence is completely shattered. He stands and tells Fang Yuan that he earned first place with his third-class talent and will receive the reward, as well as the opportunity to choose any team he wishes. He concludes by saying he believes everyone will agree, and the leaders exchange glances. The winner thinks to himself that trouble was coming. Joining any of the 3 small groups would mean offending the larger factions, and besides, his brother's group was supported by the elder from the punishment hall. The clan leader says that if he doesn't choose, the man will assign him to one of the factions, and he realizes he's being pressured. He can only choose a poor group for now. Yu Jiaosin invites him to join his group as they lack an attacker. This was a group with no support, and as the leaders must be disappointed, the young man decides to accept the proposal. With his response, everyone starts wondering if he had gone mad, as he didn't join the best group, and the clan leader grows furious. 3 days later, on King Mao Mountain, a group of people ran through the snow. It was the clan's first mission with the battle's winner. The leader tells him not to be nervous, as it's quite simple. He continues by saying that when on a mission, they must move quickly, asking the boy if he's getting used to it, to which he replies that he's fine. And he notices the kind smile the leader is giving him. Renzo used the rules and regulations due to gain strength, but he lost his wisdom. He had 3 worms left. One was suspicion, another confidence, and the third attitude. So he decides to use the attitude one. The worm says that since he captured it, from that day forward, it would be at his command to wear it and use its abilities. Then the man tried to use the attitude worm on his face, but in the end he couldn't attach it, even if he used a rope to tie it, as it always fell off. In other words, those with both attitude and a heart are all wearing masks. Jiaosen was just putting on a gentle appearance, but Fang Yuan wondered what his true intentions were. Jiaosen remarked that it was getting late to collect all the decomposed permafrost soil needed and told the group to inform him if they couldn't keep up. Fang Yuan wondered if the leader was exerting his authority as they continued their journey. At their destination, Jiaosen commented that Fang Yuan had done well to keep up and not fall behind. Looking at the other exhausted members, Jiaosen scolded them, saying they should feel ashamed and pointing out the novice's performance compared to theirs. The members murmured among themselves, wondering how Fang Yuan could be so accustomed to the task and comparing him to his twin. Jiaosen declared that the valley ahead was their destination. He instructed them to divide the area and gather some frozen soil, regrouping after an hour. He then asked Kangjing to distribute the tools. Kangjing used magic to summon a bag that spittled out all the tools needed, eliciting comments about how impressive it was, accompanied by a strange noise. Fang Yuan grabbed a shovel and said it was time to start. One of the cultivators commented that novices were always full of energy. Another warned that the soil wasn't easy to collect as it required careful distinction. Otherwise, they might gather regular frozen soil instead of decomposed permafrost soil. After some time, Fang Yuan brought back decomposed permafrost soil. A girl asked him how he had managed to distinguish it. He replied that the academy elder had explained it before, describing the soil as a common resource formed after snow-frozen swamps and detailing its appearance. He added that the clan probably assigned the mission because they intended to use the soil in underground caves to fertilize moon orchids. Jiaosen praised him, announcing that the mission was complete and they could leave. The leader distributed the 6 spiritual stones they had earned from the mission. He took 2 for himself, giving the others 1 each. Fang Yuan noticed this division of rewards as an act of repression, even though the clan usually gave novices larger rewards to support them. He questioned why Jiaosen was trying to suppress him. Jiaosen explained the mission rules to him, stating that each Q master must complete at least 1 mission per month with higher rewards for better performance. Missions were assigned and only 1 could be accepted at a time. Under special conditions, masters could abandon a mission, but rank 1 masters did not have that right. Only rank 2 masters could do so. Jiaosen noted that the decomposed permafrost soil mission had just been completed, and that their next task was a low-danger level deer hunt, which was suitable for practice. Smirking sarcastically, Fang Yuan thanked him for his concern. Kangjing chimed in, telling Fang Yuan he should be grateful to Jiaosen because simple missions were easy to complete and provided modest rewards. One of the girls suggested thanking the leader by inviting him to lunch, while another mentioned using the opportunity to ask questions. Smiling, Jiaosen commented that they shouldn't pressure Fang Yuan too much since he had just graduated and didn't have many spiritual stones to spare. Fang Yuan replied that he understood their suggestions but had other matters to attend to, so he excused himself. As he left, he remarked that for humble Gu Master peasants, such evaluations were extremely important, but they meant nothing to him. The girl wondered aloud what he meant, while Jiaosen grew irritated but warned Fang Yuan not to leave too quickly or ignore others. Jiaosen asked if Fang Yuan planned to rent a house and offer to accompany him, prompting Fang Yuan to ask for recommendations. They began visiting houses to check rental prices. Suddenly, a servant approached, informing Fang Yuan that her master and mistress had prepared a banquet and were inviting him back to their home. Jiaosen questioned why Fang Yuan didn't just stay with his uncle since renting houses cost spiritual stones. Fang Yuan thought to himself how easily the servant had found him and concluded that Jiaosen had been sent to keep him under surveillance. Meanwhile, his uncle commented on Fang Yuan's refusal of their invitation, and his aunt asked what they would do if he demanded his inheritance. The man responds that the boy should apply to the Hall of Internal Affairs to divide their family inheritance, and then a mission will be assigned to test his qualifications. The woman says he is very clever because Jiaosen is one of theirs and would never be able to complete the mission alone, to which the man replies that he can handle him. The leader probably took on another mission, as usual, to delay and block him from applying for the family inheritance mission. At this moment, Fang Yuan arrives at the place he had rented in his previous life. When his uncles expelled him from the house, he only had 15 stones and after sleeping on the streets for a few days, found this place. Inside the house, he begins his training. To break through the peak stage of rank 1, he needed to completely shatter the crystal wall of his aperture and evolve through its destruction to reach rank 2. As his primeval essence was consumed and none remained to attack the crystal wall, the cracks started to heal and disappear. To break the wall and advance to rank 2, he needed at least 55% primeval essence, but due to his limited aptitude, he could only reach a maximum of 44%. Things rarely go as planned 9 out of 10 times in life. but it was just a bit of wind and frost. Kanjing remarks that Fang Yuan is an hour late, and the clan leader tells everyone to wait for him, saying it's inevitable for a newcomer to be delayed. The other members discuss how brave he is to make the leader wait, but conclude that he is just a new graduate, a novice. The leader then tells them to search the rented houses before Fang Yuan reaches rank 2. Inside the room, Fang Yuan reflects that he doesn't have many spiritual stones left, enough for only 2 months, and realizes he needs to reclaim his inheritance to reach rank 2. It seems he can only resort to the brute method of forcing his way with spiritual stones. With 44% primeval essence, he begins breaking the aperture walls, absorbing more essence as he attacks. He calculates it will take at most 5 days to break through. After a day, the group still hasn't found him. One of them comments to the leader that Fang Yuan didn't rent any of the recommended houses. A girl arrives saying she has found him as someone rented a room on the 2nd floor of a bamboo building and it must be him. Jiaosen speculates that Fang Yuan is hiding to advance to rank 2 and suggests they show concern as a gesture of goodwill for a newcomer. Arriving at the location, he calls out Fang Yuan's name. One of the members wonders if he is unconscious as it isn't easy to reach rank 2. Receiving no response, the clan leader instructs Kanjing to break down the door. Kanjing smashes the door, but the room is empty. Seeing all the belongings in the room, they conclude he rented it for an entire month and decide to wait for him there. Inside his aperture, the translucent white crystal wall is covered in cracks, intersecting and spreading. With only 13% of his primeval essence left, the wall reaches its limit and collapses. Fang Yuan has achieved rank 2. He had been cultivating for 4 days and his body was on the verge of collapse. His cultivation was successful, and it seemed the decoy at the other house worked. The expense was worth it. Jiang enters the room saying he would have broken in if Fang Yuan hadn't emerged. He comments on being surprised that Fang Yuan reached rank 2 in one go. Fang Yuan warns him to be cautious, saying it's dangerous, and asks to stay another night, but the boy states he got lucky and intends to return to the village that same day. Jiang explains that the clan members are fighting a bloody battle and still waiting for reinforcements. Looking at Chiching, Fang Yuan asks what is happening, and Chiching replies that a minor beast tide formed on a small slope near the village. The real outbreak is expected next year, but if this is just a small tide, other groups will continue to grow, making everyone lose their footing. Fang Yuan advises him to be cautious as a rank 1 cultivator since beast tides contain all kinds of beasts and nights are much more dangerous. The cultivator declares he will accompany Fang Yuan and return to his group upon reaching the front line, surprising him. Clan rules state that guild masters left behind must merge with the group at their location and are obligated to continue fighting. Shishin says that in this case, he will go with them. As they move through the forest, one of them asks why they are bringing the boy along since he's only rank 1. But the question is ignored, and the leader asks Shishin to scout the area as they're getting close. Using his senses, Shishin notes 3 medium-sized animals ahead. Suspects they are wild deer, and the leader orders them to be driven away. With each animal Shishin reports, the leader issues orders. The reptilian remarks that there are 3 snakes ahead, and they're with the king boar. The cultivator realizes that if he wants to combine goo worms, the king boar's tusks would be the most suitable. Armed with this knowledge, the group proceeds to capture it. Arriving at the location, they find a red python and the boar facing off, already engaged in a fight with the python coiled tightly around the boar. It appears the king boar was injured first. Kangjing asks if there's a problem, and Chishin confirms the boar is theirs and orders one of the men to capture it. One of the men spits webs from his mouth, trapping the animal. The clan leader instructs Fang Yuan to restrain the boar before the web breaks. Ripping its horns, Fang Yuan assures them he can handle it. Smiling, Jiaosen thinks about using the boy's strength to his advantage, making him a fortune while delaying his progress and even harming him in the process. After praising Fang Yuan, Jiaosen instructs Huaxing to plant corrosive blood grass. The roots of the plant begin to climb over the animal. Killing members of one's own clan goes against traditional clan values, but with no such values in his heart, Fang Yuan decides to stop restraining the boar. With this move, the animal charges at the group, attacking both him and the girl. Fortunately, Fang Yuan uses his jade skin goo just in time, resulting in only back pain and no serious injuries. Enraged, the leader scolds him, saying he claimed he could restrain the boar. Fang Yuan apologizes, claiming it wasn't intentional, but Kanjing accuses him of causing the girl's death. Jigaosa declares he will deal with Fang Yuan later and orders another team member to remove the webs with a knife. As the webs are cut, the boar is revealed, now entangled in the vines of the poisonous plant. The clan leader remarks on the waste of the boar's pelt, but Fang Yuan feels relieved they managed to capture it. Using the moon blade, the cultivator offers to help but applies too much force, sending the boar flying. The group is shocked, and one of them comments that Fang Yuan is not a good team member. The leader orders Fang Yuan to stay close and quiet, warning him not to interfere. Fang Yuan retorts that it wasn't intentional. The The area fills with yellow poison spread by the boar. Fang Yuan tells the girl to heal her leg, assuring her he didn't want any of this to happen, but she accuses him of being responsible for her sister's death and wishes the same fate upon him. Sensing the boar is close to death, Fang Yuan considers using this opportunity to eliminate the others. Jiaosun commands everyone to quickly dissect the boar so they can leave after claiming their spoils. As they work on the body, a pack of wolves emerges from the bushes. The group flees, abandoning the boar behind. Fang Yuan realizes none of them can increase their speed enough to escape the lightning wolves. After this realization, he strikes down one of his teammates. His plan is to hide inside the boar's stomach, using the girl's body to block the entrance and cover himself. Inside the boar, he reflects that if the clan had known this was the start of a beast tide, they would have sent reinforcements. As long as he survives long enough, he might be spared. He speculates that the clan leader and Kongjing have likely been caught, as few people can make the best decisions under the threat of death. Even if the boar is entirely eaten and his hiding place exposed with only 5 wolves remaining, he believes he still has a chance to survive. A precise cut splits one of the wolves in half. Fang Yuan shouts to the group that the rescue team has arrived, and as he expected, there are 5 lightning wolves outside. One member celebrates their victory, and the captain orders the healer to check for casualties. The healer examines the girl and reports that she died from an attack by a wolf, as their strikes cause electric currents. The healer yells at Fang Yuan, accusing him of hiding behind the girl's body despite being a man. Fang Yuan responds that she competed with him for the control point 1 and should consider herself fortunate. He tells the healer that if he committed any crime causing her death, the healer should take it to the punishment hall, as he would accept the judgment. The healer becomes enraged, but his ally interrupts, saying it would be pointless to take it to the punishment hall since the clan wouldn't punish him. Fang Yuan begins to explain the theory of the drifting wood incident. Essentially, in a situation where 2 men are in a violent sea, the first one to reach the wood has the right to not save the other to preserve himself. The cultivator approaches Jiaosun and Kongjing's bodies, assuming both are dead, but notices that one of them is still alive. Pausing to analyze the situation, he considers whether he can kill the man without drawing the healer's attention. He removes his cloak, covers the clan leader's head, and begins suffocating him. One of the men approaches and identifies himself as a master healer, saying he wants to examine the body. At that moment, Fang Yuan lets out a cry that could be interpreted as one of despair, but he's merely finishing the job. The healer misinterprets the cry, offers condolences, and sensitively expresses understanding of Fang Yuan's feelings. Out of respect, Fang Yuan apologizes but says he needs to recover the deceased's goo worms. He explains that when a goo master dies, their goo worms are treated as inheritance for their descendants, and taking one for oneself is against the rules. The healer notices that despite the master's death, there don't appear to be any goo worms present. Fang Yuan asks the man if he suspects him of taking the goo worm. The healer denies this, advising Fang Yuan to live his life to the fullest. Fang Yuan reflects that the man is right and resolves to live as best as he can. At the correction hall, Fang Yuan notes they've been busy lately and mentions that he returned 3 days later to claim the family inheritance mission. Fang Jing shouts for his brother, informing him that today is the group's memorial assembly and that Gu Yu Jinju is dead, so they all need to attend together. Fang Yuan asks if she's dead too and remarks that dying of old age or illness is normal, and after witnessing it often, one becomes indifferent, adding that they can go. A man from Fang Zheng's group comments that Fang Yuan lacks any feelings of friendship and is cold-hearted. Fang Zheng is indignant, and others claim that Fang Yuan used the woman's body as a shield, accusing him of having no manners and doing anything to survive. Hearing this, Fang Yuan thinks that only superficial people become angry when cursed or happy when praised. This was the way only spectators saw him. Those who care about how others perceive them are destined to be mediocre. Only people with weak hearts fear rejection, and in a world of martial arts, group thinking is weak. It's for this reason that in this world, evil rules over all. Dong Tu comments to another that he's shocked the boy is already a rank 2 Gu Master and has applied for the inheritance mission. The man replies that he asked the boy to return in 3 days to collect the mission, and that this is the limit of how long he can stall. He then says he only came to chat for a bit and is about to leave, but the other insists he still needs help with a few things and says there's no rush. His companion remarks that Dong Tu is very polite and that he will prepare the hardest mission possible for Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan's uncle comments that his nephew is merely a Class C talent and wonders how he broke through to rank 2 so quickly, adding that his group perished to beasts. He laments that all of this is bad luck and concludes the boy's fortune is too high, so he must prepare for the worst. The cultivator embarks on a mission to collect honeydew. He surmises that the master took advantage of the requirement for a defense-type goo to collect the honeydew and pities the man for it. Fusing a moonlight goo with 2 small light goo results in a rank 2 bright light goo, and the white boar goo can be fused with the white jade skin goo to form the white jade goo. Fusing the white jade goo is the wisest decision, but if the process fails, his economy would be at risk of collapsing. The clan leader explains to Fang Zheng that Gu Masters use the primitive sea as their foundation and Gu worms as their method, emphasizing that Gu Masters must refine, nurture, and use Gu. He continues by saying that through fusion, it is possible to obtain different types of Gu, including higher-ranked ones, and that Fang Zheng can now refine a rank 2 mind goo since he is already a master. The leader states that Fang Zheng already has a jade skin goo and a moonlight goo and offers to teach him how to fuse the two to create the rank 2 moon barb goo. He explains that the most crucial aspect of fusing goo is parallel thought, which involves merging them with one's consciousness. The young man focuses, and after 3 hours of continuous effort, he maintains controlled fusion. The leader instructs him to drop primitive stones into the light. Fang Zheng follows the instructions, and the master tells him to continue until the rank 2 fusion is complete. However, he struggles to maintain fusion of his consciousness during the process and ends up causing an explosion. The leader warns Fang Zheng to be careful and not fail too many times, as both goo could deteriorate. The Chumku cicada is still too weak, and Fang Yuan can only use his aura to suppress other goo worms and enhance the singular refinement for fusion. This would offer no additional help. He has limited primitive stones, just enough for a single fusion. Regardless of success or failure, his finances are on the verge of collapse. The situation is akin to climbing a cliff and slipping, barely holding onto some grass. Determination is his only way forward. The young man shouts the names of the two goo and successfully fuses them on the first attempt. He then decides to add the Snow King boar's horn, and after combining, successfully obtains the rank 2 white jade goo. The process was not difficult after adding the snow horn, which increased the success rate by 20%. 10 days later, the cultivator finds himself in a cave surrounded by jade-eyed stone monkeys. The defense of the white jade goo is similar to the jade skin goo, and both require continuous replenishment of primitive essence. Fang Yuan attacks the monkeys effortlessly. The next clue left by the flower wine monkey is likely tied to the central area of the stone forest. Here, the white jade goo is similar to the jade skin goo in that both consume jade stones, and he only has 2.5 primitive stones left. The time has come to deliver the spoils of the inheritance mission at the correction hall. He used the jade skin goo and be attacked to gather the honeydew. Returning to the village, he steps on a child's toy. The father apologizes and reprimands the child, threatening her with a slap. But Fang Yuan stops the father and says it's a minor issue, reassuring him that it's fine. Patting the girl's head, he tells her not to be afraid. The father thanks him for his mercy. At that moment, the cultivator's uncle comments that Fang Yuan was wearing the Goo Master's uniform to intimidate him, and that he needed to make the boy abandon the inheritance mission at all costs. The man, surprised, discovers that the boy has reached rank 2. He thinks that if Fang Yuan has Class C aptitude but has already reached rank 2 at 16, his success must be due to his Goo Worm, though it's unfortunate that it won't be useful anymore. Fang Yuan laughs at the man's thoughts. The young cultivator appears calm, as though holding the man in the palm of his hand. He then invites him for a conversation. The uncle explains that he was different from Fang Yuan, having become a Goo Master at 15. He fought various wolves, had Class B talent, and reached rank 2 at 16, then rank 3 at 20. It recounts completing a mission but being defeated by a Goo Master from the Crown village. Afterward, his Class B talent fell to Class C, and it took 8 years to recover. He managed to recover at 30 years old and retired at 45 as a rank 2 Goo Master. Many nominated him as clan leader dozens of times, and he felt successful. The man remarks that Fang Yuan reminds him of his younger self, thinking he can conquer everything alone, but there are moments when one must bow their head and reconsider. He continues, stating that the young man has no hope of completing this mission and should simply give up. At that moment, the man offers that if Fang Yuan withdraws immediately, he will gain access to all of his uncle's connections and friendship. The young cultivator then asks his uncle why he doesn't wear those clothes often. The uncle explains that the clothing of a Goo Master becomes covered in blood, sweat, and dirt, which is what makes it truly the attire of a master. He comments that his uncle is too old, has lived an easy life, has a corrupt heart, and then asks if he knows what is inside the bottle he carries. The uncle, in shock, asks the young man where he obtained the honeydew, saying it would have been impossible for him to complete the mission without a defensive Goo Worm. Fang Yuan remarks that the man is a bad person, bound by rules and regulations, and that the pouch was near him, asking why the uncle didn't simply steal it. The man offers thousands of spirit stones, but the young man turns his back on him and walks away, leaving the uncle calling his name. The young man reflects that his uncle carries wounds from the past, which have made him weak. At that moment, the man tells Dongtu that there is nothing more he can do about the situation. The results have already been determined, and he hands Dongtu a list of the inheritance inventory, telling him not to make things more difficult. The woman screams that he cannot do this, saying everything belonged to her husband, and asks what would become of them if they lost it. The man insults his wife, slaps her, and says those are the clan's rules. In a frenzy, he declares that he will reclaim everything, stating that he cannot stop the correction hall and that he will deal with Fang Yuan. Things will not go as the young man plans. Fang Yuan receives his inheritance letter, which includes 10 mu of farmland, 8 servant families, 3 bamboo houses, and a wine tavern. He reveals that with all of this, in addition to the 7 Goo Worms, he can double his assets. The most crucial item is the Gru leaf, which after refinement with a 9-leaf clover, turns each leaf into a vitality leaf, equivalent to a rank 2 medicinal Goo Worm. By infusing primeval essence into the vitality leaf, more leaves can grow, making the 9-leaf clover a gold mine and the most valuable part of the inheritance. Fang Yuan visits the tavern, and the staff greets him, offering him a seat. He asks the attendant to bring the ledger. After reading it, he notices missing funds. The attendant explains that the previous landlord personally took the money, and they couldn't resist. The young man stares at him, and the attendant falls to his knees, pleading for mercy. Fang Yuan says he won't dwell on the past and announces a 20% raise for the servers and a 40% raise for the attendant as an incentive. Everyone expresses immense gratitude and vows to work hard. Fang Yuan reflects that combining strength with mercy is how the best leaders control their subordinates in any world, but strength is the true path. He considers that the bamboo houses are well managed by his uncle and aunt. While their profits are not as high as the tavern, they are steady. After his rebirth, he wandered aimlessly. Now that he has assets, he has a foundation and will pursue the flower wine monkey inheritance. He plans to cultivate his rank to level 3 and explore the world. At that moment, his brother calls him, saying they need to talk. He wonders why his brother is there and asks him who he thinks he is. Fang Zheng responds that he didn't think his brother would be like this. The young cultivator retorts that after their parents died, their uncle and aunt adopted them, and he didn't expect his brother to forget their kindness and repay it with vengeance. Fang Yuan says the inheritance was his from the start, that there is no vengeance or favor involved, and that the inheritance belongs to their parents, suggesting that their uncle and aunt be left with a retirement provision. His brother, stressed, says that half of the servants have already been dismissed, and their uncle and aunt cannot pay for anything. He asks why his brother is so heartless. Fang Yuan responds that last month's earnings from the tavern are sufficient to pay the servants, and that their uncle and aunt are pretending to be poor to manipulate him. He adds that because his brother acknowledges their uncle and aunt as family, he no longer has any right to the inheritance. His brother admits he knows this and challenges him to a battle. If he wins, Fang Yuan must return a portion of the family's assets. The young man says their uncle and aunt are controlling him to do this and questions his brother, who has already lost before, on what gives him confidence that he can win this time. Fang Zheng then uses the Moon Garb Gu ability, saying he is no longer the same as before, challenging his brother. The young cultivator says he successfully refined the rank 2 Moon Garb Gu and declares that his brother will not be able to pierce his defense again. Fang Yuan is impressed by the ability and mocks his brother for revealing his trump card right away. He explains that the rank 2 Moon Garb Gu is a worm with defensive properties and can assist other group members with defense. The other asks his brother if he didn't expect this and if he already had the approval of his peers for the battle. Continuing, he says Fang Zheng should speak first with the leader Gu Yu Kingshu and that he will be waiting at the west gate of the tavern. The twin warns him not to run away. At the tavern, the three meet, and the man tells the younger brother to leave briefly. He says he will be straightforward, stating that he finds Fang Yuan interesting, wants to buy the liquor worm, and asks for its price. The cultivator thinks the other is talented but pities him. He reveals that in the wolf battle next year, the northwest gate will fall and he will advance to block the attack. During that defense, he will be forced to use a rank 3 Gu worm, successfully defend but lose his aptitude, turning into a tree man and eventually dying. King Shu says there is no reason for him to keep the liquor worm since it only serves to refine rank 1 copper, and the young man is already a rank 2 master. He then mentions that the cultivator wants to fuse a white chrysalis and a rank 3 transpiring butterfly, claiming the liquor worm's value lies in its refining potential. Fang Yuan reveals that there is a secret recipe for the liquor worm requiring fusion with the rank 2-4 flavors worm and the 7 fragrances worm. These worms have the ability to refine primeval essences. However, the mixtures are not easy to make as they require 2 liquor worms and 4 types of wine. Fang Yuan asks if the man thinks he will lose, and King Shu says he won't let Fang Zheng fight for the family assets if he sells the liquor worm. The man notes that battles are unpredictable and that his brother already has the rank 2 Moon Garb Gu. The cultivator mocks, saying he would surely lose. He says he would lose miserably, personally hand over everything to his brother, sleep on the streets, and become a beggar in the village. King Shu knows this is a threat because the young man is next in line for succession as leader, and if word spreads that his brother defeated him after recognizing the family, it would be over. He asks the young man how he plans to cultivate without the inheritance, and Fang Yuan tells the leader to lose interest in the liquor worm and persuade Fang Zheng not to fight him. The man becomes irritated and says he will do it. The young man then attempts to refine the Moon Glow Gu but fails. Luckily, the little light Gu is the one that dies, and he can buy another from the shop since it's easy to restock. When a Gu worm dies, the chance of fusion drops drastically, making it necessary to wait and recover before trying again. 3 days pass. Fang Yuan successfully refines the Moon Glow Gu to rank 2, now possessing 3 times the power of the original. For thousands of years, due to this terrible system, many masters have been set back to square one. The only way to improve this is with the Spring-Autumn Cicada, Fang Yuan's vital Gu. Jiang Ye meets the young man at the tavern, handing him the primeval stones and asking him to confirm them, along with delivering the vitality leaves. He counts the leaves and verifies their authenticity, noting that demand for grass goo is high and asking why the other doesn't produce more leaves to profit. Fang Yuan replies that he is already at his limit and spending too much time on cultivation. The man comments that the young man is already wealthy and doesn't need to work so hard. The cultivator says he must fuse the liquor worm at any cost, as without it, his progress would be halved in refining the 4 flavors worm. He also needs to stock up on goo worms, requiring 1 for movement and 1 for recognition. And if he has all of that, he will have no weaknesses. The tavern attendant enters the negotiation room frightened and says someone is causing trouble. Jiang Ye looks out the window and says it's Man Shi, a specialist in defense and attack, and the leader of the Man Shi group. He warns that Man Shi is one of the few who escaped Bai Ning Bing and advises caution. In the tavern, the man throws a glass of wine on the floor, declaring it worse than horse urine. In act of aggression, Man Shi says he was in a good mood before, but because of the drink, they now needed to compensate him with 500 primeval stones. The crowd around comments that they won't drink there anymore, noting that Man Shi has powerful backing, and that the tavern owner must have offended someone. He confronts Fang Yuan, accusing him of scamming people and demanding a public apology to obtain forgiveness. Man Shi adds that if Fang Yuan kneels and apologizes, he'll let the matter go and promises to act fairly. The spectators murmured that if the cultivator kneels, others will trample on him, but if he doesn't, he'll be seen as disrespecting his seniors yet gain the community's admiration. Fang Yuan launches a moon blade attack at Man Shi. Despite his defense, Man Shi takes a direct hit and suffers immense damage. Man Shi, stunned, demands to know what Fang Yuan is doing. The crowd remarks that the young man isn't afraid to kill the fighter and face the consequences, pointing out that Fang Yuan didn't hesitate and went straight for a lethal strike. The cultivator attacks his rival again. Man Shi warns Fang Yuan that he can't kill him without risking punishment and imprisonment by the punishment hall. Fang Yuan prepares another attack but holds back, stating that he won't kill him. Man Shi claims he wasn't on high alert and was caught off guard, which is why he took the hit. At this moment, Fang Yuan threatens to break Man Shi's limbs, ensuring he spends the rest of his life bedridden and unable to complete missions. Man Shi's mind flashes to a memory from 2 years prior. He recalls a man with white hair who broke his defense and told him they'd duel again once Man Shi fused the monolith goo. That man, the genius from the Bai village named Bai Ning Bing, was rank 2 at the time but capable of killing a rank 3 elder. Man Shi didn't expect to see the same piercing gaze in this village. Jiang Ye, watching the situation, realizes that Fang Yuan has reached this level because he is no longer the same person he once was. In March on Qingmao Mountain, caravans arrive early. Gu Yu greets Jia Fu, noting his early arrival, and Jia Fu inquires about his well-being. Jufa mentions that time has brought many precious things and assumes Jia Fu will have a variety of items to show. Jia Fu replies that coincidentally, tomorrow marks the clan's birth ceremony and invites Jufa to attend. The man shifts the conversation to Jia Jinqing, mentioning an ongoing investigation into the matter and asking Gu Yu to help facilitate the process. Gu Yu reflects that Jia Jinqing's death has turned Jia Fu obsessive, especially regarding his family's inheritance competition. He recalls hearing about Jia Fu's intense conflict with Jia Gai, which left a scar on Jia Fu's face as a reminder. The caravan house known as the 3-Star Cave becomes the next setting. Fang Yuan hears about a liquor goo being sold for just 500 primeval stones. He remarks that he hadn't expected fate to align so perfectly with his goal, but as a beginner rank 2, he must approach the matter carefully. Yoji's granddaughter tells her grandmother that she wants the liquor goo for tomorrow's birth ceremony. The elder woman assures her she can buy whatever she wants. As the village's top healer, Yoji has significant connections, having saved many clan leaders in the past. The granddaughter insists on getting the liquor goo immediately. Yoji asks for paper and ink, explaining that circumstances are different now. She writes an offer and asks if it's sufficient. Yoji affirms but cautions that life is unpredictable and someone might outbid them. Yoji assures her that overpaying for a liquor goo would be unwise, so their chances of securing it are high. The crowd watches as the elder woman submits the bid, realizing they have no chance to compete, and many leave. Fang Yuan observes the elder's deliberate strategy to intimidate other bidders, recognizing it as a calculated move. He mutters to himself that this woman, who has spent her entire life on Qingmao Mountain, is trying to stop him from obtaining the liquor goo, dismissing her as outdated. Yoji's granddaughter stares at a strange object and asks what kind of goo it is. The elder explains that it's a relic capable of increasing a master's cultivation rank by a small realm, but can only be used once. The granddaughter comments on its high price of 30,000, but her grandmother remarks that it should cost 50,000. Ignoring the topic, Yojai tells her to come downstairs as the auction results are likely in. At the reception, Yol is shocked to learn that the liquor goo was sold to someone else. She exclaims that the person who took her liquor goo must be evil. Yoji acknowledges the rules but inquires about the value of the final bid. The receptionist replies that the information is confidential and cannot be disclosed. However, she adds that the final price was the highest among all bids. At that moment, another man arrives to handle the rest of the negotiation. Recognizing the elder and her granddaughter, he offers them a special delivery deal. allowing them to buy an extra liquor goo if they match the final bid. Frustrated, Yoji insists on paying the same amount as the previous buyer and asks if the bid was really so high that she couldn't afford it. The attendant hands over a slip of paper and agrees to her terms. Yoel is surprised to find that the final bid surpassed Yoji's offer by only 20 primeval stones. Fang Yuan now has 2 liquor gus. He still needs 4 types of wine: sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy, but he is particularly concerned about acquiring the bitter wine. Currently, he lacks movement and tracking type goo. With wolves set to attack Qingmao Mountain next year and the caravans no longer coming, he needs to make preparations. He cannot afford to run out of goo or fall behind in cultivation. The cultivator purchases a black beetle goo, which significantly enhances a master's fundamental strength. The white beetle can stack on top of it. 7 days later at the caravan house, the crowd buzzes with excitement over a relic, commenting that obtaining the red iron relic would allow them to advance their cultivation to the mid-stage, and the price seemed affordable. Fang Yuan calculates that the relic's price will exceed 5,000 primeval stones and could reach 8,000. He needs to obtain it, but doesn't have sufficient resources. With the sale of the relic set to happen in just 1 day, Fang Yuan considers mortgaging the tavern and bamboo house. He wonders how to sell them quickly and recalls someone. He visits his uncle and aunt's house. Upon seeing him, his aunt begins cursing him in various ways. Fang Yuan announces his intent to sell all the wine, the tavern, and the bamboo house, asking if his uncle is interested. The aunt has an outburst, repeatedly questioning which properties he plans to sell and why. Frustrated, Fang Yuan says he will negotiate with her and insists that his uncle come forward to finalize the deal. During the negotiation, his uncle asks why he's selling, and Fang Yuan replies that he wants the red iron relic goo. Dong inquires if he plans to sell the 9-leaf clover, to which the young cultivator responds that it's merely part of the initial proposal. After the negotiations conclude, the couple stands outside. The woman celebrates regaining the businesses, but the man tells her to stop gloating. He warns her not to feel too smug, noting that although they regain the businesses, their lifestyle would be inferior to before. He ponders what the future holds. He compliments his nephew's determination, noting that Fang Yuan gave up all his comforts to pursue what he believes in, successfully selling everything for the relic. Outside the caravan house, the crowd discusses how many prominent figures have placed bets on the relic. Inside, Fang Yuan is stopped by a receptionist who informs him that Lord Jiafu wishes to speak with him on the 3rd floor. Upon entering the room and greeting the Lord, Fang Yuan, who had been monitoring all the bids, wonders what the man wants. The Lord asks if Fang Yuan would be interested in working with him. Fang Yuan replies that he's honored but has no interest in leaving his clan. The Lord counters that there may have been a misunderstanding. A year ago, he had doubts, but after using the bamboo man, those suspicions were dispelled. He reveals that he has already hired the divine investigator Teague Zuling, who has a reputation for resolving every mystery before him. Fang Yuan knows this investigator will be a significant problem for him. He asks when the investigator is expected to arrive at Qingmao Mountain, and the Lord responds that the man is busy and might only arrive next year. The Lord hands Fang Yuan a token, explaining that if he ever wishes to work with him in the future, the token will serve as proof of acceptance at any time. A year ago, Fang Yuan befriended Jiafu to gain his identity and participate in the competition, but in the end, he had to kill him. Using him now would be no different. The token given by the Lord is Fang Yuan's ticket to enter the goo fighting competition. Returning to the cave of the jade-eyed stone monkeys, Fang Yuan resumes practicing. If he can fuse the liquor of 4 flavors and refine primeval essence, he'll be able to unleash 8 strikes. He compares the other youths to hammers and himself to iron fresh from the fire. With each strike, he becomes firmer, more compact, and refined. In his calculations, he previously killed 17 to 18 jade-eyed monkeys with 3 moonblades. This time, he managed to kill 41. After finally reaching the last altar, he speculates that there may be a monkey king living among the ruins. He recalls that the sick cobra group managed to kill a wild boar king capable of controlling up to 1,000 boars. A monkey king could control up to 100 monkeys simultaneously. Rank 2 initial stage primeval essence is no longer effective in this environment, and he'll need the red iron relic to attack the king. Upon consuming his rank 2 resources, he advances to the mid-stage, where the primeval essence becomes denser compared to the initial stage. For a goo master, the higher the cultivation level, the stronger they become, with greater chances of survival due to access to more missions and more primeval stones. 30 minutes later, at the center of the stone forest, the Monkey King has yet to appear, leading Fang Yuan to speculate that either there is no king among the group or it may already be there. Suddenly, his vitality goo sounds an alert, and he realizes the Monkey King is nearby. Fang Yuan is struck and immediately activates his White Jade defense before taking the hit. He quickly notices the Monkey King is using the abilities of a camouflaging goo to remain hidden. Once again, the monkey vanishes and Fang Yuan has no idea where it might be. He activates White Jade goo again, but knows that continuing this way will waste all his primeval essence. he decides to retreat. The best strategy in such a situation is to flee into the territory of other stone monkeys, causing chaos and turning them against one another. Despite his plan, the Monkey King continues to pursue him. Fang Yuan knows that even if he times his reaction perfectly, he won't have an opportunity to counterattack. With only 10% of his primeval essence remaining, he realizes that even if he enters a secret room, the Monkey King would simply tear down the door. Stopping his retreat, he tries to locate the hidden king. Now that he's taken this risk, he must be prepared to fight for his life. His only chance lies in exploiting an opening during the Monkey King's attack to counter with a Moonblade strike for an instant kill. Trusting in the cicada, Fang Yuan remains still, removes his jacket, and prepares himself. Then from his left, he notices movement. He takes a hit and throws his jacket at the monkey to track it. Once located, he uses a Moonblade to slay the king. Despite its camouflage abilities, the blood trail leading to his jacket gives the monkey away. Approaching the fallen king, Fang Yuan retrieves a camouflage stone goo. Noticing a large number of monkeys gathering behind him, he realizes he must retreat to recover, even though he's found a clue about the inheritance. Exhaustion doesn't bring success, and now that he has uncovered a lead, it's time to regroup. Sometime later in July, in a meeting hall, the clan chief reports that 3 days ago, a river-swallowing toad appeared at the foot of the mountain near the village. If ignored, it could pose a grave danger and assistance is needed. Elder Chi Lion insists that no news of the toad be made public as bad actors could provoke it, leading to severe harm to the clan. The chief explains that if the toad ascends King Mao Mountain, it would submerge the wolves' habitats, forcing them to migrate. This migration would spark an infestation earlier than expected, creating conflicts over territory and battles with wild boars for survival. When the ancestor of the first generation founded the village, a rank 5 Blood River python attacked, but the clan leader managed to slay it. Compared to the Blood River python, the river-swallowing toad seemed adorable. It had a calm temperament and was harmless to ordinary people, only becoming alert if it sensed the aura of another goo. It would only attack by spitting a river if it was harmed. The elder remarked that all this information was merely rumors. The matter was of great importance, and they couldn't afford to be careless, so he decided to send masters to investigate. Chai Lian insisted that the Chai family must be involved in such matters, asserting that if they weren't, no one in the clan could handle it. The leader agreed and stated that the Chishan group would be sent. At the tavern, Fang Yuan asked the man if he had found any leads on the bitter wine. The man replied that someone in the Bai village had taken it. The ingredient was a type of shell found in deep ponds. These shells were black with white rings that resembled tree growth rings. The bitter shell consumed sand and stones in the water, dissolving them and creating bitter water. This water was used to make bitter shell wine, known for its unique flavor. The cultivator asked if there was any bitter wine in Bai village, and the man replied that even if there was, it likely wasn't much. Fang Yuan told the man he could leave, but the man pleaded with him to repurchase the tavern. He explained that their current lord was planning to halve their wages, making life unbearable. The young cultivator responded that he had already sold the tavern and had no intention of maintaining such businesses. The man, begging for mercy, insisted he couldn't survive under those conditions. At that moment, Fang Yuan angrily cursed the employee, threatening to kill him on the spot. There would be times when a group of weak people would beg the strong for help, behaving pitifully and shamelessly, forced to accept their fate. In the village, the residents discussed the rank 5 toad, a looming danger that left everyone anxious. The protagonist managed to increase his strength, becoming equivalent to 2 boars or 6 adults. He feels that he won't be able to wake this frog, however. If he can take and use Chisen's strength and that of others, he will succeed. Using his full strength, he starts pushing the frog. However, the giant creature ends up waking up. With its mouth open, it begins to absorb. In shock, his companions ask if he managed to do it, and the boy says that apparently, yes. Suddenly, the frog spits out a huge amount of water into the sky. Then one of them notices that the frog ended up vomiting a lot of seafood and questions why it smells like wine. At that moment, the muscular man says that this must be the 100-year bitter shell, which can turn sand and stones into wine. At this instant, the hero realizes that obtaining the bitter wine was difficult, and he didn't expect it to appear right in front of him so soon. He comments that he put in 6 bitter shells, so he can refine the 4-flavor liquor right away. Meanwhile, the old man receives the news that Fang drove away the giant frog and suggests promoting him to team leader and rewarding him with 500 stones. Not long ago, the Gu clan was like bamboo, always green all year round, but now they are falling behind. This is Xiang Li, a rank 2 Gu master of the Xiang family. He and his group understand that this area already belongs to the Gu clan and that they will probably be treated as enemies if they enter boldly. He explains that his goal is to deliver the clan leader's personal letter to the Gu clan leader and investigate the matter regarding the river-swallowing frog. Then the muscular man decides to guide him through these lands. Meanwhile, in the second chamber of the secret room, the protagonist is with the 4 flavors of wine. Then he begins the fusion process of red fruits. During this process, he understands that he needs to keep throwing the primary stones. After that, he had to add golden honey wine, bitter shell wine, and white grain wine to allow these 4 flavors to merge. Shortly after, a blue lightning starts to emerge from the mixture, and at that moment, the hero understands that it was a success. At that moment, he feels relief as he was lucky to succeed on his first attempt. Once successful, the benefits will be very high as the 4-flavor liquor is capable of refining the primary essence. After that, he realizes that he needs to fuse the stealth stone to be able to conceal the clothes of a Gu master as well. Meanwhile, Zhongli says that the buff redhead is really strong, but he is no match for him. The man comments that he is not the strongest in the clan and that if he wants to be the first, he will have to defeat Fang Yu. Surprised, the man says he has only heard of Zhang, so the redhead explains that Fang is the older brother who defeated the rank 5 river-swallowing frog. Upon hearing this, both the man and his subordinate are left perplexed. At the early stage of rank 2, 4 moon blades can be fired and the quantity doubles as you advance in rank. Fang managed to clear 3 stone pillars in just 2 days, and if he can do it even earlier, he should be able to reopen the path quickly. He understands that the underground cave of the central pillar must be the next barrier, and that there must also be more obstacles along the way. He thinks that there must be only 2 earth treasure flowers left. Sometime later in winter, the wolves start moving through the village. The hero is hunting to sell wolf pelts and teeth, and although the market price is low, he understands that it could be compensated by a large quantity. Suddenly, someone calls for Funky One. It is the buff redhead who asks if the man knew that Xiaonli wants to test his strength against him, and he says yes. Then the redhead says that this involves the clan's alliance and each one's profits, and that currently, the 3 clans are at an impasse because of this. He also says that he has competed with this man before and was no match for him, but warns that the protagonist cannot lose because of the clan. Cracking his fingers, he kindly asks the hero to discard personal honor and dodge the man's challenge. Holding a sack, the buff man explains that he will compensate him for it. And at that moment, Fang asks if his reputation is only worth 200 stones. As he leaves, the redhead says that the truth is that this is an order from the clan superiors, so he must understand his position. At this, the hero thinks that he was used by the clan to drive away the frog as a bargaining chip in negotiations, and now they have decided to send Xiangli to challenge him. He admits that he didn't want to compete with Xiangli, but in any case, he must thank the redhead for gifting him 200 stones for no reason. Already at night in his room, the protagonist asks the green-haired man if he wants to buy a black boar. In this case, since the hero has already gained the strength of a boar, it has no use for him, and he states that he could trade it for Gu fish scales. He then explains that fish scales can be fused into a rank 2 armor, thus providing good defense. Next, he says that what he is offering is more valuable and that in this trade, he should receive the price difference. The green-haired man asks if the liquor worm is being sold, but the protagonist says it is not for sale. However, the green-haired man asks if he knows Gi-Awe, who is the granddaughter of Yoji. He explains that Yoji wants the liquor worm for her granddaughter and is willing to pay a high price. Additionally, she promises to offer special medical treatment. Upon hearing this, Fang asks why she did not try to buy it directly from the Gu master, since she is so interested in it. But the other man says that they do not know which clan possesses it, and that there has been no news about this person. At that moment, Zhang appears, commenting that the liquor is already useless for his brother and soon questions why he is still holding on to it. Irritated, the hero explains that the liquor is his and that even if it could be in his hands, his brother has no right to decide what he does with it. After hearing this discussion, the negotiator realizes that their relationship is not good and that it was a bad idea to bring Zhang along, so he suggests that he leave. As he leaves, the boy tells his brother that he cannot understand him, and with arms crossed, the protagonist says that he does not need his understanding. Changing the subject, the green-haired man talks about the boy selling the 9-leaf vitality grass, but the hero says it is not for sale, and that if he were to sell it, it would cost 65 prime stones per leaf. Irritated, the man says that his clan is selling it for only 60 stones per leaf, and then the hero explains that prices will rise. Fang understands that the man is underestimating the wolf tide and that during it, the price of these leaves will increase to more than 100 stones per unit. By January, at the 3-clan alliance meeting, several people are talking about Bai, commenting that he is already a rank 3. It is said that the alliance will unite for the Gu battle tournament and that competitors must stop before fatality occurs. They comment that the first group to go out will be Xiangli's. Xiangjin appears, wanting to challenge his brother Bai Bingyan, who is the second strongest. Its opponent mocks the situation, but the boy says he has great defense and will give the man 3 chances to attack. Not believing in the boy at all, he questions whether he really thinks he can block his water-piercing Gu. However, the boy still seems confident and says they will not know without trying. Then he begins using his rank 2 zombie ability. At that exact moment, he starts transforming into a kind of muscular zombie. Zombies have higher resistance against physical, water, wind, and poison attacks, as well as a higher regeneration rate. In contrast, his opponent uses the level 2 water exercise Gu. Then he launches an attack toward his opponent's abdomen, sending him flying. However, the boy, even with his injuries, starts laughing while sitting on the ground. After that attack, the Water Master begins coughing up his strawberry-colored blood. The boy ended up using some kind of shadow attack that could not be seen. Smiling, the boy says that with this shadow, no matter how many injuries he receives, his opponent will have to accept 10% of them. Seeing this performance, everyone in the audience is completely impressed. Smiling, the man praises the boy, saying that he planned very well using this tactic. Upon hearing this, the boy says he is flattered and comments that if they really fight, the final winner will still be his brother Bai. Observing the fight, one of the elders comments that Xiangli's group is having a great start. Meanwhile, Xiangli begins to prepare for his fight. He's going to avoid the protagonist, and everyone starts talking about how he drove away the river swallow and leap all by himself. At that moment, the burly redhead tells the hero that he can no longer avoid this, and his only option is to move forward and fight. However, surprisingly, Fang simply says that he admits defeat. Upon hearing this, several people in the audience call him a coward, saying that he does not have the courage to fight. Mockingly, Xiangli comments that he didn't know the warriors of the Gui clan were like this. However, in the hero's memory, 3 villages survived the wolf tide, but the incident 2 years later completely destroyed them. Thus, his goal is to use this time to improve as much as possible, and then leave the clan to avoid this fatal disaster. Surprisingly, the green-haired man appears, challenging Xiangli. King Shu explains that they will compete in strength, and if the man can break free from the binding of the green vine, he will admit defeat. In his mind, the Wolverine lookalike understands that he will win because he has the strength of 2 bears. With the duel accepted, the green-haired man begins to use his ability. Quickly, his vines move toward Xiangli and bind him. Instantly, the man begins to use his bear attack. Demonstrating immense power, and he quickly manages to break some of the vines. Laughing, the Wolverine cosplay tells his opponent that by the looks of it, he is going to win this match. However, King Shu, performing some kind of jutsu, tells him not to be so sure. Suddenly, several vines emerge from the ground, completely binding his body, now 10 times stronger. Not wanting to admit defeat, the man starts using his strength of 2 bears. However, shortly after, he ends up kneeling on the ground, unable to do anything, and thus admits his defeat. Seeing the result, everyone begins to celebrate, including Zhang. The green-haired man used the wood charm Gu, which allows someone to fight with the spirit of a tree. With this, he was able to directly absorb the natural essence in the air to restore his existence. Thinking deeply, he understands that a fusion between the wood charm Gu and the 100-year Gu can reach the 400-year ranking. However, the wood charm is powerful, but has its weaknesses. One of them being that it cannot be used for too long, as the user's body turns into wood. The alliance meeting ended up being a success, and the clans managed to reach a temporary agreement. The battle merit board will be set up, containing all 3 clans, which will be displayed at all times. The top 3 positions on the merit board will show intense competition, and every day there will be some kind of change. Shortly after, spring arrives, where all living beings are growing once again. At this moment, the protagonist is hunting when he notices that a pack of wolves is approaching. The hero ends up being surrounded by several of them. At that moment, he starts using his stealth ability to become invisible. It proves to be very effective as he can easily evade these lightning wolves since they use their eyes rather than their noses. With a determined look, Fang understands that this ability does not make him completely safe, as there are still many other beings that can detect him. Meanwhile, in the central plaza, people begin to ask why the first place still belongs to Babing's group. However, they realize that the ranking has changed and now King Shu's group is in first place. Happy with the news, Zhang tells King Shu that he is indeed a rank 2 Gu master. Looking back, the boy notices the presence of his brother. Irritated, he thinks that it's no wonder he is at the bottom of the ranking, since only by removing prejudices will he be able to feel the warmth and happiness of a clan. In this case, Fang's group is in position 267 in the ranking. With spring,